Just waiting for folks to come in, man. Just waiting for folks to come in. That's all. What's up? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in. I'm operating off of Streamlabs today, a little bit of a different platform. We'll see how that works, yeah? Panel link is in chat. I'm a newbie at this, guys, so bear with me here, okay? Panel link's pinned. Anybody wanting to come in and join, you're more than welcome to. Just waiting on folks to come in still. Please feel free to jump in. Anybody who's jumping in, as time goes on, we will. There's going to be some more people in here. For right now, I'm just kind of hanging out by myself. Thanks for stopping in, guys, watching so far. Hope you're having a great day. This is the early pre-discussion stream. Happy Father's Day, y'all. I definitely have a few people that'll be jumping in here probably in a few minutes, so we'll have a discussion going soon. Sorry about the wait. I'm just kinda riffing right now, you know? Anybody who's watching, listening, please, I hope you all are having a great day. Happy Father's Day. It's very possible that I'm gonna mute myself for a second and make a quick phone call. Yay, guys. Sorry about that. Mm. Oh, shit. Dude, Rob is such a legend, bro. Rob is such a legend. On the case, Ashton, thank you guys for tuning in. It's a pleasure. Anyone wants to jump in, StreamYard link is pinned. Please do. We'd love to talk to you guys. Wait, how do I do that? How do I do that? Oh, I'm goofing. I'm such a noob. Yeah, no shit, Duck. I am. Yeah, big time, Duck. I have no idea. Oh, shit. Did it work? Did it work? Hold on, let me figure it out. All right, so I got to go into settings. How do I do this? Oh man, I'm big goofing. Oh no. All right, hold on. Hold on. Can someone help a noob out? Anybody? What's going on, guys? Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. Yeah, dude, I have no idea what he's talking about. I heard that late. All right, YouTube redirects. Hold on. Hold on. My name's lower class for a reason. You know what I mean? Yeah, dude. Slower class. Oh, that's a good one, bro. Slower class. That is fucking hilarious, man. That's a good one. I'll give you that, bro. I'll give you that. Duck, what's up, man? Welcome. What's going on? Okay. All right. All right. I see what I got to do. Okay. I do that from studio. Got it. Okay. Studio. What's going on, guys? Hey, thank you very much for coming in. I really appreciate you guys stopping in and tuning in. We're just going to be doing a thing, you know. I'm anybody wants to jump in. I do have the panel link pinned, so please, by all means, if you'd like to jump in and chat, would love to have any of y'all in, man, for real.
What up,
Oh, thanks,
dude?
Vengeful Truther. What's up, dude?
How are you doing?
Good, man. How's it going?
Good, man. Just finished. I was at Rob's stream and saw he was doing a raid, so I figured I'd hop over, see what's up, man.
Thanks for jumping over, man. I appreciate it.
Sir.
I'm still trying to figure this out, dude. I'm goofing right now. How? Hold on,
Uh,
'cause it
Ask
said go
EOD.
into.
I don't know if EOD's in chat yet, but maybe he can drop the link for some of the early movers. Um, See if anyone wants to hop over that way.
Yeah, yeah,
Usually
yeah,
the
yeah.
raid's
Well,
better.
so I went into the thing and it said hit settings and then go to community, but I don't see the community tab. Huh.
Oh, well, if EOD, if the raid isn't working right now, um, it would be possible to just drop the link to the stream or lower classes channel in Rob's chat. Much worse, but I don't know. Some people
I
probably want
think
to click it and come hang out.
if I'm not mistaken, he did that.
Oh,
That's where everyone came from, which greatly appreciated, guys. Thanks for stopping in for real.
yeah. It looks like there's 17 living, breathing souls amongst us.
This is the most my channel has had at one time. Thanks for stopping in, guys.
Let's go, baby. Dude, I did a live stream, not even like with like protest footage, protest riot footage, whatever people are calling it.
Yeah,
And I had 31 people in my like 100 subscriber channel. It was crazy.
nice,
Um,
dude.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's and I will say that's definitely so far where I've gotten the most traction when it comes to engagement and getting people in was when I was just doing coverage of the protests and riots because obviously those two things are different. Um, like yeah, what was it yesterday? Like by and large, a lot of that was peaceful. Like there were areas where there was riots, but by and large, like a lot of the protests yesterday went on peacefully, and there's no issue with that at all.
yeah, yeah. Grid one made me argue about the protests against one of the guys that was arrested in the frickin' Jan 6th insurrection.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah,
Yeah, he wanted to talk about whether or not this was an insurrection or not, um, which is sort of crazy.
yeah. I will say what it seemed like in that debate was that chairman of the board, his judgments went solely correlated with the way he felt about somebody instead of like genuinely like judging people's capacity to argue any kind of points. It was a little frustrating watching that.
Yeah,
But anyway, man, so what do you think? Because I know we're going to have some contention on a few things.
yeah.
What do you think about how Trump is doing so
Okay,
far?
so I'm gonna say a nice thing, and then I'm gonna be honest after that.
Well, just be
um,
honest in general. But yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the nice thing is, I do think that a lot of people, a lot of like geopolitical analysts and stuff, are saying Trump's having a much better second term. Yeah, you have this tariff policy, which, when you're actually talking about international, like political economy, like all this stuff, there's a lot of reasons to say that it's a weird policy, but Trump appears to be having state level relationships, which no one really believed that he did in his first term. He was learning how to be a president. He probably
Yeah,
wasn't qualified or ready to be a president in that first term. Um, uh,
there's a good argument of that for that. Yeah.
yeah, and but I think the other side is we're already seeing an abject failure of because I am center left, so I would classify Trump's policies, his appointments, basically anytime he picks up a microphone is setting the conditions for another abject failure for the American people. People are suffering and stressed out because Donald Trump is in office, and I really don't see a way that as a voter, I don't see how this is even forgivable for the Republican Party.
I mean, and like looking at where you're coming from, I totally see that, and I would say like there's definitely something to be said for how he does seem at least today, right now, heading for an abject failure. Because if he goes against everything he ran on, and like genuinely
Yeah,
doesn't fulfill, because like what was the tagline coming into it, right? Like promises made, promises kept. That's why I was throwing so much support, because at least it seemed as though He was in it. He was serious. There is no worrying about getting elected a second time because he's already had his first term. So he was just going to like get everything pushed forward, move forward. And at least over the past couple days, the back steps, just coming from like my perspective on things, not only does it show, or at least maybe it might not be weakness, but it shows weakness, and it also shows just like a little bit of indifference to the actual like motivations that people voted for him for. Yeah,
Yeah,
Bolsonaro, I completely agree. Yeah, 100%.
yeah,
That's and I know Duck is gonna have some contention here with me on this, but I'm very like anti-uniparty, anti-establishment. That's just where I kind of stand with that, uh, for how far it's gone on its own. Yeah, Ashton, absolutely, for sure. And I will say, like in his first term, the energy that he brought on the campaign trail has literally been unmatched, at least for any politician in my lifetime. Like he brought a strong energy, had a strong message, and instead of him like genuinely like putting a middle finger up to a lot of the people that are within our system that are abusing it, um, it seems like he's giving concessions, and that's a backstep. I would say,
yeah. I don't totally agree with Ashton here. If we look at what Trump did between the two terms, one, he told people, he basically encouraged or validated this idea of trying to conduct an insurrection or undermining, which is an insurrection, a democratic process. Secondly, he started a social media company. And thirdly, he continuously told the American people that you can undermine and ignore the executive of the United States, which is true in some ways, but the way in which Trump meant it meant that you could spread as much C-19 as you want, bro. You can believe as many conspiracies as you want. And so saying that Trump didn't keep the momentum, well, he did, but the momentum was based on telling young men that they're allowed to be angry and they're allowed to define what a man is. It's the woke right, dude. It's the woke right all over again for the first time.
I don't know if I necessarily like kind of fall in line with that, because like I think there was like a societal norm, and it seems like he was more reestablishing like what has commonly been held as a societal norm. Um, the definement of what a man is, and this, there can also be an argument for this. There's it's a very kind of subjective thing, even with people who have the idea of the societal norm, right? Because there's some guys who, like for instance, the guys that, do you even lift, bro? Like to them, that's what their concept of a man is: hyper aggressive, you know,
Yeah.
going to the gym constantly, getting super buff, and like, I'll get in your face if you say anything against me or whatever. But then, uh, for most people, and especially coming from this, at least from my concept of a man, is more like an internal thing, like responsibility, discipline, um, being able to take care of yourself and those around you along those lines. And so to some degree, like where Trump comes from, I think he more like riled up the anger in where it's less about men telling each other what men should be and more about like saying fuck you to systems that haven't been friendly to people by and large. EOD, Ashton, welcome in, guys.
Okay,
Welcome in, guys.
I've only got a little bit of time, but I wanted to present this to you and then show you how to do this. Just to make sure that it's done. I'm not saying that you can't figure it out, but it'll be quicker if I could just walk you through it.
EOD,
Yeah,
I'm
deal.
I need the help, bro.
EOD is that shirt in Armani, bro.
There. No, it's like J.C. Penney or some cheap shit like that.
It looks really good.
DOD, I do appreciate your haircut, by the way.
You appreciate my what? My haircut?
I appreciate the haircut. It looks good on you, bro.
Thank you, man.
Let me
Just
I
wait till
kinda-
he dyes it.
let
I
me
kind of
let
let
me
the barber just do whatever she thought was right, but
let me elevate EOD's looks. Gentlemen in the chat, any ladies who are here, just notice how much EOD cares about the way in which he presents himself. It is remarkable.
Peak.
Let's let EOD now teach lower class how to do this.
yeah, I'm trying to. I'm sharing a screen, lower class. You gotta present it to everybody.
Oh, sorry, my friend.
Yeah, there you
I'm still figuring out how to work this one as well. How do I give you permissions to share the screen? How do I do
I think I'm already sharing it. You just have to add it to the show.
Got it.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, good. What you do is you come in here to community. Okay, so this is the YouTube studio. You just click on it's not community, it's customization. I'm sorry. And then it's down in here somewhere. I was pretty sure of it. You know what? I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure my damn self. Maybe it's in here. And then in customization, right? Or community moderation? Yeah, I think that's it. Right. So right here. So that's it. That's it. That's it. I'm sorry. So from the dashboard, you come down to settings, and then you hit community moderation, and then it's right here. Live redirects. Allow all channels to redirect to my content. This has to be checked, and then anybody can redirect to you. If you want, you can specify a list, but especially for anybody starting out, I would say just open it up to everybody until you get like hate rated by somebody, and then it becomes an issue, right?
Oh, I would welcome that with open arms, my friend.
I have a quick tip too, if you want to put my screen up there.
Sure, man. That's all I wanted to share with you. That's super simple, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Seriously, dude. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, and Duck, whenever it comes up. Oh, there it is.
Should be. Oh
Got
yeah,
it?
I'll present this. So this is just the Dr. Phil interview about a woman who slept with 1,000 men. So if you're Dr.
Oh.
Phil or this woman, you don't need to get rated by Rob Noor. Just the truly important stuff.
That seems very important, Doug. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Yep. Hi, Creed Dog. It's good to see you too. Yep. I
Yeah,
gotta
Creed
go.
Dog. Thanks for joining in, brother.
All right. I'll see y'all later. Happy Father's Day.
Hey, thanks,
Later.
Yoda. You too, man.
All right. Take it easy.
Now, I did want to ask Duck to repeat himself because you were starting to make comments whenever I made the one post on lower classes channel there, and because I was joining the Streamlabs, I couldn't finish hearing what you were saying. So I would like you to repeat yourself on that before
where were we? What were we talking about?
I stated that Trump did not keep up with the momentum that he had in his first term. In the first term, he was running on issues and running on things that actually people were concerned about and for, and he did keep a lot of his promises in that first term. Whereas this term, he is not doing the same thing that he was running on as far as campaign.
So sorry to talk over you. The first thing that I said was that the nice thing I said about Trump was that geopolitically, in his first term, no one truly believed that Donald Trump had any sort of executive level, POTUS presidential commander-in-chief relationships with world leaders. It's really difficult, I think, for a lot of presidents. But I think people thought he was very self-involved with social media and the way his campaign and the domestic politics worked, that it would be difficult to actually have a productive conversation. Lack of political capital, all of these types of things.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as the social media following and stuff, does social media really matter whenever it comes to a presidency? Whenever you have a backing, such as he did for this term, for example, the highest popular vote turnout since 2020, before mail-in balloting was the thing.
Yeah, so for presidential politics, I think if we're just talking about the U.S., kind of to draw that parallel between social media a little bit, it matters immensely. You know, in some sense, you know, if you're the president, you should believe that governors, as well as very state legislative bodies, are interested in passing law that for some reason sort of follow that presidential platform. And so if you are on social media and you're still spreading conspiracy theories, you're getting into little minor squabbles and fights. You know, as a Republican or Democrat, I don't know why I would have faith or trust that someone like Donald Trump is finding sort of like this like intuitive or tangible path forward where you know people are willing or even capable of following direction, even if they went to a meeting with in good faith with Donald Trump. It's like, well, you know, if half of this is about these little minor relationships that don't truly matter for anything right now, then what would what would come out of that? It'd be nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that.
Go ahead, Ashton. Go ahead.
No, by all means, I'll let you go first on that one.
Oh, I was just going to say, I do think that it seemed like in his first term, he thought he was going to have more control, you know, because he comes from like the executive world, right? And he probably thought that he was going to have a little more of a hand in directing things, because, you know, by and large, a lot of the things he ran on, unfortunately, he didn't really get them done. Like he didn't drain the swamp. You know, he ran quite a bit on like throwing Hillary in jail. That didn't happen. And to be fair, you know, he had a ton of pushback by everyone that was in the establishment. You know, like even his current vice president back then was saying, you know, was comparing him to the skinny mustache people. You know what I
So
mean?
this is more the mythology, though. This is also, you know, this is this is you know, sort of the plebeian class in the United States, if you will, wanting to have some mythology or narrative about Donald Trump being, you know, this sort of outsider who's going to drain the swamp, who's going to fight. For some reason, he's now fighting, you know, bankers like Jeffrey Sachs or Jamie Dimon. For some reason, these people that have never entered the room in the first place. And so this idea that, you know, he did have some sort of capital that he was forming, and you know what, it just took 8 years and now we're really rolling baby. Well, we're seeing the deleterious and damaging consequences of this mythology now. We're seeing that the actual storyline is that when you divide and you tell angry young men that they're allowed to be angry and you just change your focus and you get something new out of it, is complete nonsense. It's hogwash. It's been hogwash. There's nothing the world has to offer you that you don't get from joining a boxing gym. Learn MMA, right? You know, it's recycling the same. We've seen this throughout history, that when you tell people you can be angry and nationalized and you're not being smart about it, you're going to lose.
Yeah, but I mean, in all fairness, though, don't you also see that coming more from the Democratic and the Libertarian side of things than you do the Republican Party things? I mean, for Christ's sakes,
you
have brought
to,
up about.
Yeah. But you brought up about, explain yourself.
Well, I was going to say, you brought up about the January 6th, how he incited the insurrection, but did we or did we not have the BLM protest going on in 2020 as well, to where we had not only just Kamala Harris, we had I forget the mayor's name from California. We had all those people inciting violence, saying, you know, make your voices heard. Don't let people sit down in a restaurant. You tell them that they're not one of us. Would you not agree that?
So the major difference is after Charlottesville, Donald Trump was saying there were good people and bad people on both sides.
But you're taking that completely out of context. He said he condemned the neo-Nazis of Charlottesville. I didn't hear a Democrat singularly condemn anything.
No. So if you want to get technical, didn't Donald Trump also not turn down an endorsement from like a leader of a white nationalist group?
Are you talking about David Duke? And
we're not trying to get ticky-tack all line. I want to stay at the level. In service to you, I want to stay at the level that you brought the argumentation in at.
Correct, and I'm keeping that same level, and I'm letting you know David Duke was disavowed.
Okay.
That's the leader.
Okay, and so when we see, so you are what you're telling me to believe. You want me to believe that Donald Trump going on Truth Social and Twitter, spreading fake news from Breitbart, repeating conspiracy theories, being anti-science, and really supporting people that are leading the charge that ultimately culminated in January 6th. So if we look at 2014 to 2020, we look at that time period, you're telling me that Donald Trump is not that candidate, but as a Democrat, I believe then that Joe Biden in 2020 and then Kamala Harris in 2024, they weren't talking about small businesses. They weren't talking about making education or something more equitable. They weren't talking about the merits of the American dream in 2024, whatever the heck that is. You want me to believe that we're also Democrats, if it's us and me versus you, we're spreading propaganda. We're talking about how our kids have a different upbringing.
I mean, to be fair, each
that's
party
the narrative.
is
so that's the story you're telling me that I have to believe, and you have evidence to support this claim.
I have more evidence on the Democrats spreading false propaganda than I do any former Republican spreading false propaganda. Each party is going to spread propaganda no matter which side you choose on. There's
so
always
is Ilhan Omar, is she married to her brother?
Yes, there's actually a marriage certificate stating that she is married to her brother. I have seen.
So you're not telling me that this was a random friend that reported to whoever it was, and then they constructed a timeline based on a rumor. You're not telling me that's what the story is.
If you would like the reference, I can gladly quote it for you. If you go on Steven Crowder's channel and watch Louder with Crowder, he actually has the references linked to his page, has the actual signed
What is a
marriage.
reference? What is a reference? Is it evidence? You're telling me it's evidence. And now we're adding. I just want to make this clear to everyone in the audience. Now, not only do I have to make up things that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have never said, but now the other thing, and it's all cool, it's all a troll, bro. The other thing is now we have actual verified information. Trump didn't lie to you. Trump didn't tell you to not use your head. Trump didn't tell you to be worse than you have to be. Trump didn't endorse an insurrection. Trump did not endorse a racist protest in Charlottesville. In fact, Trump's always been looking out for the little guy. How is this sense making?
Let me allow me to throw that back at you. Kamala Harris didn't go out and bail out a bunch of people from the Black Lives Matter riots that caused over $2.2 billion in damages. Kamala Harris didn't put a GoFundMe page up for anybody on there to allow these people to be free that were looting, burning down stores, rioting, and killing police officers. You want to compare a January 6th insurrection to a Black Lives riot, then I would gladly love to see your evidence on how any of those people are not propagandists as well.
Okay, so keep rolling. I want to hear the story now. So apparently Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are somehow connected to $2.2 billion worth of damage. And let me grant you that this has nothing to do.
Kamala Harris was live on Twitter and fucking posted a group GoFundMe to bail out.
I didn't hear what you said. I didn't hear what you said. Can you start over?
Sure. Kamala Harris was on Twitter posting and retweeting a GoFundMe page for rioters to be released from prison so that way we could allow them free back into the fucking world that we live in. Meanwhile, they're burning down shops, they're destroying businesses, they're killing innocent civilians. But you're telling me that the insurrection of January 6th was the biggest coup?
See, here it is. Killing innocent civilians. If you want to go toe-to-toe on this little ticky-tacky stuff, and this is what this is. You're telling me now that an entire MAGA presidency redefining what the Republican Party is because of $2.2 billion and some amorphous claims that Democrats kill police officers, which no one in their right mind can believe. Let me finish. So you want to go back and forth on this ticky-tacky stuff. Let's talk about MAGA voters. Let's talk about the conspiracy websites. Let's talk about people killing 100 million people during COVID. What can't we talk about with this?
What happened? Where did 100 million people die in COVID?
How many people died globally from C-19?
No, I'm not worried about globally. I'm talking about America. I don't care about the globe. I care about the country that I live in. The country that I have to reside in, the country I have to raise my children in. That's what I'm concerned about. I could give a fuck less.
So epidemiology doesn't exist, everyone? That's right.
Correct. Epidemiology does exist.
This is insane to me.
So then epidemiology exists. So you explain to me how a Wuhan lab that was funded by Fauci and other WHO and NIH members was allowed
This is
to create a
incredible, dude.
virus
This is amazing.
with gain of function researching that we have the proof of from the biology that we've studied.
So this is just, you're just trying to get me to post content to my channel, I think, at this point, because you just went to say Trump. No, I'm finishing this. So you just told me that Trump is standing up for the little guy. He's standing up for Americans. And we somehow went from Trump doesn't make conspiracies to Wuhan lab and all this other stuff. This is what you want people to listen to and believe. I don't understand how you don't see that in 2025, this is unacceptable behavior. You should feel shame because it sounds like you've researched this, and despite you researching this, you chose the other side. Go on.
Can you condemn your party? Because I'm condemning mine. I never once said I support Trump in anything that he does. I never once.
So you're the good guy. You're the good guy for bringing Wuhan into a conversation about Trump.
I'm bringing up the fact that you're saying that Trump started an insurrection, and you're saying all these things, but you cannot defend nor defame your own party that does the exact same thing. That is my
thing. Yeah, I will. I'll say what my problems with the Democratic Party, and the formal party system. I think the Democrats could have done more for a long time to loop in bipartisan efforts. We should have been able to do more to combat the Tea Party. And this is all you agree with because you're a partisan hack. You're dogmatic and you believe internet rumors over nothing. This is insane to me.
What internet rumors?
You have no argument. I don't know why you can't just accept that. And so you're trying to get the chat here with us right now to agree with these lies that you're spreading instead of going the other way. Instead of going the other way and saying, hey, you know, your buddy Duck. No, let me finish. Your buddy Duck, he could be wrong all the time. Hands up.
I never once said you were wrong.
My hands up to God. You know, my hands up to God. Buddy Duck could be wrong all the time. And I admit when I'm wrong. You are unwilling to admit that. So you brought conspiracy theories into our conversation here when we were having a productive conversation on Lower Class's channel, trying to figure out if Trump is having a great second term. And all you could say is Wuhan. All you could say over and over and over again is COVID-19 was a United States conspiracy. It was a Chinese conspiracy. Be quiet. I'm not done yet. And at the end of it all, you tell people to be extreme. You tell them to be excited because at the end of the day, what you're telling me is that the Democrats kill hundreds of millions of people when in fact it is the Republicans who are telling people to be divided, to base their political views on hatred. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Duck, where did I mention anything? Where did I mention anything about people dying, and where did I ever once say that I have supported Trump at 100%? Please quote me. I would love to see you quote me on that. Because I'm not a YouTube star. I am not a YouTube channel streamer. I could give two shits less to the wind about a YouTube or a social media following. I am not on here to be a YouTube famous person like yourself.
I'm not here to be famous, buddy. I'm here to have people stop lying to you. Do not trust when people lie to you. They tell you to be worse than you are. Lower Class, the other day, Lower Class and I were talking about economics in the chat. We were talking about thinkers we can learn from. And this guy's here telling you he's done his research. This guy's up here disrespecting you. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Look, I've agreed with you on most of the things. I'm asking
you're a bully. You are a chat room bully. You are nothing more than that. If you want to be the good guy, be the good guy. You tell me to my face. Are you not seeing this? You tell me to my face that you did not accuse the Democrats of killing people. Roll the tape back. Roll the tape back.
Democrats? Yes.
Guys, hold on. Let's all calm down. Let's get back on topic. It's getting a little heated here. You know, I like both you guys. So I think right now, the best way to continue the conversation is just to roll everything back. Let's get back on topic. And, you know, it got a little hot there for a second, my man.
I agree with Duck on most of his things. I truly do. I have never once ever called Duck anything other than a normal person. I have no disregards or ill will towards you at all, Duck. Not one thing. You are a very, very smart individual. But at the same time, you cannot condemn anything on your party. I can. I agreed with you on the Trump insurrection but you can't sit there and tell me that there was an insurrection on Black Lives Matter riots. How dare you? How dare you think that your party is this fucking whimsical fucking place when your Democratic Party's killed more people than mine throughout history? If we'd like to go back to that, would you like to go back to history?
I can't hear a single word that you just said, buddy.
No, I apologize.
I'm bouncing right now, buddy. Let's go.
Allow me to reiterate my point. I said, and I quote, Duck, I've never once disagreed with you on anything. I have never once said you, sir, are a charlatan and a fool. I've never once said that your party is killing people. You don't want to engage in the actual topic that the Democratic Party is just as bad, if not worse, as the Republican Party.
So as you mentioned, my friend, when you came up, you didn't hear what I said completely. I made 2 great points. I said something great. I said something very kind about Trump. I said geopolitically, he's being a president. He's doing the most coveted job in the world right now, and he's doing it more effectively than he did his first time, despite policies which can be seen as an iceberg. The second thing I said is that all of Trump's domestic policies are a complete disaster for our country. The reason this is the case is because, okay, and so, you know, this is the disconnect I don't understand. So I bring up a point or I make an argument, I just share my feelings, right? I'm in my fifis right now. And I tell you, no, wait, let me finish. I tell you that it seems like Trump appointed his friends. It seems like Trump has signed executive orders that some people are saying finish the motion, but it's really the shuffling of anger and hatred to different places. It's a lack of responsibility and political ownership. I make this point, and you drive me into somehow addressing Breitbart and the, you know, and you know, the Post and all these other little tiny flat earth websites. This is what you do to me. This is what you tell me. You tell me that I cannot have an intelligent conversation anywhere because you have researched it. You've researched it, and the Democrats tell people to go start race riots, to start racial special interest groups. This is what the Democrats do.
Duck, are you so blind that you can argue about a Republican, but yet you can't see the forest through the trees on the Democratic Party side? I just agreed with you.
Trump is doing through the trees on the. Explain this to me, please. We have time.
Okay, Duck, you're just sitting. You just sat here and said Trump bad. Trump bad. Trump started it January 6th. Trump has conspiracy theories. Trump has this. Trump has that. But I have no right to sit here and criticize your Democratic Party. What the fuck, dude? Honest to God.
No one ever said that. No one said that.
You just just sat there and said that I'm claiming false things, that the Democratic Party was outrage baiting.
I don't see how you don't understand. I don't see how you don't understand this distinction between saying that there are conspiracy theories and disinformation and people that just lie. And then going back 15 minutes and the point that I made, the thing that I said, which was really good, was that I am willing to criticize the Democratic Party. There's ways in which the Democratic Party hasn't responded to ideology or to the way systems might adapt into the future that people have intuitions about. There's things that we could have done to be more bipartisan. I've already said this, and to undermine what I'm saying and to say that that's not consequential, that, you know, I have these reserves sitting in me. That should be remarkable. We've been talking now for almost 30 minutes. It should be remarkable to most people.
And Duck, I've never once sat here and said that I disagree with anything you just said in regards to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. But when you sit here and tell me that all the things Trump does bad, but my party does it, it's okay, that's when I have a problem. When you sit here and tell me that the Democrats didn't cause the race riots of the Black Lives Matter movement, you are out of your fucking tree, sir. We have the physical evidence of proof that they did. I didn't see a single Democrat going out during the Black Lives Matter riots and saying, hey guys, let's choose love Let's not kill people. Let's not loot and burn down our entire fucking town to a tune of $2.5 billion within a physical year.
Yeah,
Where's
remarkable.
that?
It's remarkable to me. So when you're saying the Democrats caused this problem, there's a clear difference between our positions here. So when I talk about Donald Trump, the thing that I'm arguing is that, well, there's receipts. Trump has been on Twitter and social media and a media darling since before he was on The Apprentice, since before his desire was to be a public figure. And so now you're saying that Black Lives Matter, these protests that no one has talked about in the news in the last however many years, and yet it seems that the Jan 6 insurrections keep coming up. They have a legacy. You're telling me that there's no way to attribute, again, direct statements versus hundreds of years of human history, anger, people trying to figure out how to peacefully protest in the age of social media. There's all these things compounding, and yet you have to say that the Democrats are the ones, you looped it in. You said $2.2 billion of damage in killing police officers. You're dishonest. I shouldn't even be on this panel up here talking to someone who is so dishonest and so hateful, so spiteful.
Tell me how that's dishonest,
You're
Duck.
so spiteful.
Duck,
I can't understand it.
Your feelings. Tell me how it's dishonest, and I'll gladly agree. How is it dishonest, Duck?
How is it dishonest to say that the Democrats asked people to go destroy property and kill police officers? Didn't stop it. That's what you're telling me?
They sure as fuck welcomed it in with open arms, allowing the rioters to get back out of prison, didn't they?
This guy is a fucking moron.
How am I a moron? I would love for him to come back and actually have an ideological conversation. Truthfully. Like, I don't understand how he can sit there and condemn Trump's action, but cannot sit here and take the constructive criticism of Kamala Harris, Mayor Bowser, and all of them that just released all those rioters, and that I'm the moron. When I have the evidence and the proof of it, and he's in his feelings. Fuck him, dude. Like, Duck, I have no ill will towards you, Duck. You're a great dude, and you've always been a calm dude on panels and stuff. But don't call me a moron and call me ad hominem names whenever you yourself can't even fucking fathom the factor of a Democrat doing bad things. Oh, God, no.
Yeah. So what do you think about how Trump is doing so far this term, brother?
Trump's doing shitty right now, and he needs to get the fuck out of his own ass and fix the shit that he's fucking up.
Yes, 100% I agree. I don't necessarily I don't believe he's doing 100% shitty, but it is like a huge fucking letdown with how he's backpedaled on a lot of the things that he ran on, there was, and I know there's a few people, I don't want to say it was like a large percentage of the voting block, but there's a few people who they genuinely like single issue voted for him to release the Epstein files. That was a huge deal to a lot of people. And that's kind of just been swept under the rug, it seems now. You know what I mean? That was a big deal to me, right? Because that whole story came out while he was president. And it really sucks that, my biggest criticism of Trump so far, right? Because like I agree with the tariffs concept. I think in order to like give a valuable degree of measurement to its effectiveness, we're gonna have to wait like at least another year, but everything else, it seems like he's backpedaled on it.
I agree. He has backpedaled a shit ton on stuff. I'm not even looking at it through the lens of, like you said, with the Epstein files and stuff. I'm looking at it more along the lines of the policies that he's created, that he's promised on whenever he was running, versus what he's implementing now. Like, that's my argument with him, is the fact that he has all these policies, like we're going to make America great again, but yet we're going to go through now and not let those policies go into effect. And I agree, there are some, the Senate and the House Republicans are the ones that actually finally on those bills. But at the same time, Trump also has the power of executive orders that he can change and dischange and everything else. But I don't agree with, I don't have a disagreement with his policies, but I don't also agree with the factor of what he's done with the immigration status or any of those things.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think anybody can deny that immigration so far has been a slow roll at best, and that's been a problem to me, right? Like, I support if the reason it's been slow is because they've solely focused on like illegal criminals who are committing crimes after coming into the United States, then there's an argument to be had for that. But the messaging hasn't been there, and if it has been, it hasn't been that effective. Right? I think if he were to really kind of push the idea of, hey, I know we're not moving on this as quickly, but this is why. If he were to be able to explain that, that would go a lot further than not really saying anything for a while, and then all of a sudden now he's talking about not deporting illegal people with really no validation other than like, well, there's people who are hiring these folks and we don't want to fuck them over. It's like, that's the point, like that's the thing that get.
Yeah, like I agree. Like when your whole party of running on the 2024 ballot, when you don't do any formal debates, you don't do any of those during any of that time frame, and you sit here and say you're going to deport, I'm going to close the border down, I'm going to get rid of all these illegals, I'm going to do all this, I'm going to do all that. But then you come in and you go, well, I own a couple hotels and a couple farmer buddies of mine say this would be a bad idea. Then you renege on that and you Indian give on that and you go, let a few stay. No, you're breaking your promise to the American people that you made.
Yeah,
you did. And that's one of my biggest gripes about him, is the fact that he's not following through with what he was planning on doing when his term. That's why when I originally sent the chat before I got in here with Duck, I said he had a great momentum for his first term and he should have kept it up and followed through with that. If he would have done that, I think we would have seen a lot different of outcomes whenever it came to actually the support and the actual backing of the Republican Party. But right now, he's making us look like a joke. And I agree with everything Rob Noir said this morning. He's not doing anything that he fucking promised. And that's where people are getting pissed off. He's basically turning back into his Democratic self from the fucking 90s. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And, I don't have any ill will towards Duck either. And Duck's a fucking smart dude. Duck is smarter and more intelligent than I ever in a million fucking years could even fathom when it comes to the political debating or any form of social debating. But I will not idly stand back just because I'm fucking special and say, oh, well, the Republicans did it bad, Democrats did it, it's okay. We'll let that go. We'll just let that slide. No, sorry, not happening.
Yeah, there's no arguing that he's well read, for sure. I guess, for me, right, what I would want to see is an explanation from the president on why he should justify how he can justify kind of backpedaling on the deportations. And I would like to see what his justification is for the big beautiful bill. Josh Blinzer, thank you, man. Thank you for jumping in. I appreciate it. I would like to see what his justification is on the big beautiful bill after literally running on cutting massive government waste.
I agree. 110%. If you're going to claim that you're cutting all the billions and trillions of dollars out of the federal government, and then you sit back and go, It was a goof. I was just joshing. No, fuck that. Then you don't deserve to be the president that we elected.
Yeah,
plain
it's
simple.
Avid replacement of what he like proposed to do with the big beautiful bill just replaces everything that he was cutting with Doge. Not like to the dollar or anything, but it's like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. You know, and that's just, if that's not exactly how it is, then that's at least how it's perceived to be. You know, because I'm not like a wicked smart guy, right? I'm a lower class, like regular dude, grew up in a trailer park, you know. I can articulate my way through some things and I can understand concepts, but really outside of that, like I'm not super well read, you know. But that's what it seems like to me. And I feel like I probably kind of represent a I don't want let me rephrase that. I don't feel like I represent fucking anybody, but like I think the way that I view politics and the way that I see these things can really kind of fall into more of a popular category. I think a lot of people do see things similar to the way I see them, and if I'm looking at that and all I see is cut the government because they're wasting a bunch of shit, but then you see this big beautiful bill that is gonna, it has a bunch of pork and wasting a bunch of money, right? The common perception is going to be, well, then what the fuck was all the Doge stuff for in the first place? You know, because I mean they did find a bunch of shit, like in that just when was it, the 12th? So 3 days ago, they had a USAID official and 3 corporate execs plead guilty to that like 10-year long bribery scheme, that where he was taking bribes in order to allot them contracts and like push them forward through the process. It's like $550 million worth of contracts, you know?
Yeah, and I mean that's the kind of shit that we're talking about. And that's the kind of shit that we all agree is fucking bad. No matter whose side you're on, it's fucking bad for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those people,
those poor people, big agree there, bro. Sorry, I'm just seeing that comment.
You know, and yeah, and look, those 2 people got fucking killed for it because they said no more Medicaid for illegals. Bet you that was a Republican that did it, though. I bet you any money that's how they're going to spin it.
Well, it's, you know, it's unfortunate that. I mean, that's what most of this stuff is, isn't it? Like it's all a spin, you know. And that comes from both sides, you know. And I don't mean to be the both sides guy here, but both sides have their spin they put on everything. It's I guess what's most important is who has the most effective messaging. And one thing that backs up effective messaging is effective like execution, you know. And that's my biggest gripe on Trump so far is he has not had the most effective execution, right? There's been a lot of there's been effective messaging, but it's not really been backed up with really effective execution. And now it seems like he's starting to fall backwards on his messaging.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. The messages are there, but the execution of those messages are not being followed through with. Yeah. And that's the problem I have either side, whether it be a Democrat do it or a Republican do it. If you make a promise or you make a claim that you are going to fulfill said promise and you don't do that, then shame on you. You don't deserve to be in that elected position that we, the people, put you in. We're not a democracy. We're a constitutional fucking republic. We elect the leaders. We are the voice of reason. And if our voice of reason is not acting the way we need to act in a country that we want to have to keep for our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, then they no longer need to be in that role of power.
I mean, dude, I 100% agree, right? Like, without a doubt, you know, and this is this is solely based around like my perfect political worldview. Okay. So it's totally hypothetical, but if I had my way, the government would be treated as an employee and less of like an authority figure. That's how
I
like
agree.
that's my perfect worldview, right? I know other people don't agree with that. Some people think that like we need a stronger enforcement mechanism, and I get that. But you can't hear anything, Duck?
Duck, can you hear me? Duck, come back on the panel and let's talk logic and not be hateful.
Oh, okay, no.
Come on.
Here.
Come on, Duck. Come back up and prove me wrong. I'd love to see the YouTube star take me out. Come on. Humble the Pennsyltuckian from PA.
It did get a little out of hand there for a second, so
Completely agree. And I'll even apologize to his face. I am not a mean person, heartful or spiteful, and I have no ill will towards Duck whatsoever. Duck, if you're listening right now, you are a very smart individual, and you are very smart when it comes to debating. But my only gripe about you is that you will not disavow what your party does whenever you disavow it from our party. And that's my only contest with you. That's my only ill will towards you, sir.
hey, if you guys want a round 3, I'm all for it, man. Come on back up if you wanna move forward, Duck. That's
Come on,
cool.
Duck. Move forward and let's bury the hatchet like civilized men. My wife just called me gay, so let's fucking do this. My wife called all of us gay. By the way, lower class, get yourself one of the grape slushy geek bars, my friend. They taste like the fucking grape Jolly Ranchers, and they're amazing.
Which one? What flavor?
Grape slushy.
Grape slush? Okay, I gotta try that.
Dude, it tastes like I'm eating a Jolly Rancher straight out the bag.
Well, Duck, I hope you have a good run, and just so you know, you are always welcome on my panels. So come back anytime, bro. For real. I didn't. I was. What happened to Ashton? Oh, it's just me now, boys. I think Ashton DC'd, guys. Well, how y'all doing today, man? You too, Duck. Have a good night, man. Oh, we'll see. Ah, there he is.
Yeah, I derped out. I pressed the wrong button.
All good, man. I'm an old gamer, dude. So I'm well acquainted with the classic DC. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Duck, I hope you have a great run, man. And fuck, when you get done running, if we're all still on, maybe you can come back up and we can talk like civilized people. But just remember, double lace those fuckers, man. It'll make you run better.
Yeah, I will say this. I'm not. I mean, I don't at all regret my vote. Even though Trump is starting to do stuff that's like pissing me off, I do not regret my vote. I
don't regret my vote either, but I regret the fact that we elected somebody into office that's now reneging on everything that he ran upon.
Well, that's my only going to beat him. I mean, that's just the bottom line. No one else was going to beat him in the Republican Party. No one had that energy. No one had that following. No one had, certain ideals that he was. There is no way he would be beaten by anybody else in the Republican Party. Like he had to serve this second term. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bolsonaro. Yeah, that's a good point, dude. That's a
And just
good
remember when I'm in StreamYards, I can't fucking see anything YouTube's saying.
I wish.
Trump is a culture win more than a political. Yeah, I agree. Falls on you. I agree %. He was the cultural go-to, but at the same time, we as a culture need to also remember that the culture depends on the not just the ideological view, but the societal view as well.
Yeah,
it does. Like you can't have a culture with no society. You can't.
Yeah. I like and I definitely I see where you're coming from there about how it wasn't about Trump personally. I think that was true up until they tried to kill him.
Agreed.
I mean, that's just the bottom line. Like until they tried to kill him. Yeah. Nope, dude, that's based. Absolutely. Yeah. He sure as fuck is, bro. Yeah. He essentially that's the reason why I like him so much. Because like when I was a fucking dumb early 20-year-old, right? Like I was like 23, I think, when he got elected the first time. I was a Bernie bro up until I saw what the Democrats did to Bernie, right? And then when he came out with the same populist messaging and was essentially saying fuck the establishment, and he was saying like, yo, like I am their donor. I'll tell you, the most impressive thing he did in the 2016 election or campaign for me, Uncle Mustache. The most impressive thing he did in the 2016 campaign was when he was on stage during the Republican primary debates, and he like literally said, these guys call me for money. If I call them, they pick up the phone. And that was just, like it was at that moment watching that I went, whoa. Like this dude is really about it.
I think it was funny if you go back to the 2016 debates, whenever he was saying about Hillary sponsors and this and that and the donors in the room. Like, she's not going to say anything bad about her donors. I know that she's not going to change it because they work for her. And I'm not going to disprove it. I took every tax cut they made because that's what I was made to do because they gave us the system to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course I use it. Of course I do.
Of course I take every fucking tax cut. Who wouldn't? You'd be dumb if you didn't.
Yeah.
If I was
Avery, what's going on, my dude? Welcome in.
What's up, man?
Not much.
What's up, Avery?
Just chilling. I saw the discussion was on Trump. I'm with you, buddy. I wouldn't take back my vote because I know how absolutely horrible it would have been long term with Harris. But lately, Trump, I'm having my second, my doubts on him. Various different things, with Israel, with Ukraine. He said he'd end Ukraine day one. Nope. Israel, that would be over. All it would take is one call. Nope. Yep. I mean, we're going right down the old supporting the military industrial complex again. Well, fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that's everything he just said is fucking agreeable with. I can't even argue that logic because it's logical.
Yeah. See now,
and this is where I agree with you, and I agree with Rob, and I agree with Avery. We need to be able to call out Trump for his bullshit. We need to be the party that calls him the fuck out. Because if we're not, then this shit continues to happen.
And we're no better than them.
Exactly.
Okay? We are no better than the left if we're not willing to criticize our side and scrutinize them like if we're not willing to scrutinize the people we put into office like they are our employees, which is what they are, we're no better than the left. The left is
not-
perfectly willing to let their own politicians fuck them back to back, and they're so like twisted, they'll justify it.
Yep. Yeah, they have
There-
undying
something
loyalty, and that's very, in my opinion, that's ignorant. You know, you got to have logic.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree. Trump's not a demigod. You know, he's not a god. He's not a lord emperor. He's not a king. He's a fucking president that was elected by what 78 million fucking people.
Yeah.
Other big thing that concerns
I'll
me.
answer that.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So we have yeah, we do. Does not give a fuck. We definitely have that on the right for sure, 100%. We have a question in chat.
I'll
Calvin
answer it.
asks, can someone on the panel answer this? Aside from the border, how a Harris administration would be worse? I have my answer, but I'd like to hear what y'all think first.
Avery, do you want to go first?
Yeah, man. So they were trying to put in the EV mandate, and in the trucking industry, if they put an EV mandate in, the price of goods and services would have skyrocketed because what happens over time is all these all these trucking companies have to phase out all of their equipment. So what already went on in California with the trucking industry is they made it where if you had a truck that was pre-DEF, diesel exhaust fluid, or DPF, your diesel particulate filter, your truck was no longer allowed to be registered inside of California. If it was registered inside California, it had to be done with. So what happens is if that went across nationwide, we saw the price of goods and services already skyrocket in California. If that was done nationwide, the whole country would be experiencing the same costs in goods and services as California. That's one, and I've got many more on top of that if that's not good enough.
Yeah, just to give you a reference point on your qualifications, go ahead and turn your camera on real quick, Avery. Just
All
for
right.
a couple seconds.
I think that makes him highly qualified since he's driving that big rig right now.
Yes. Yeah. So Avery's a good friend of mine, dude. We've been friends for fucking what, 5-6 years now. Avery's
Yeah, I
a
think I
great
was trucking
guy.
about a year when we first met. I'd only been in it about a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's been on the road. I always called him, he was my best roommate because he paid rent and never was never there.
Paid rent for a bed that he never got to fucking sleep in.
Yeah. Yeah, he paid me. The 2 times he was there was when he moved in, and then when he moved out.
You're not gonna hit him from that far.
That was great. Yeah, but
Hell yeah.
so the Kamala economy would be worse than what is now. Absolutely. I mean, absolutely.
Oh, 110%. The inflation rate would go up instantaneously. Not only that, if you look at it from a world standing point, Kamala Harris has no impact on the global scale. She has no like actual understanding of, oh, okay, well this foreign land is invading another foreign land. What should we do to help stop that? Oh, well, maybe I should, I don't know, maybe put the fucking boot on their neck and be like, listen, you keep this up, we're going to have to get involved. And if we get involved, then you're fucked.
I can give you several other reasons. So like the first one would be the freight industry, which affects the cost of everything, as you know, everybody obviously knows logic, right? So, and then the other problem is when she was the California, what was she, the DA? What was she? She was some top position when it came.
She was DA. She was DA, then Attorney General. She had physical relations with the mayor.
Okay, so what happened was, she brushed off evidence that would have released I know at least one inmate, but I'm pretty sure it's a few different inmates, and that's because in California, if you are an inmate, you can get out of being an inmate by working in the fire, in the forest management and the firefighting industry. Well, they don't pay them, but like they pay them like $1 an hour, $2 an hour. It's below minimum wage, but it's allowed because they're in prison. And she shoved off a bunch of stuff for multiple years on different people to keep them in prison so they could keep getting free labor out of these guys. And
Exactly.
and Tulsi Gabbard brought that up in their first debate in, I believe, 2016.
No, and even without marking the Tulsi Gabbard, Steven Crowder, whenever he was deplatforming, he went and had to do Rumble and stuff. Steven Crowder literally brought up the receipts. And that's what I was trying to show earlier whenever he brought up the Ilhan Omar one. He has the receipts and the references pointing to it, saying that she didn't commute sentences, she extended their sentences. She wanted to give the taxpayers a free labor, but also putting them more at risk and more in turn in them to servitude at that point. And we have that. We have the reference points. So that's where I don't understand. Like, it's all fun and games until somebody proves their point properly.
Yeah.
When we look at Kamala Harris and we see what she was willing to do as a DA, you want to give this lady power to the most strongest and most reliable country within the world on a world stage.
Calvin, I think what his point is less of like her actions back then are affecting what she's doing now, and more of somebody with that kind of moral compass should not be president, right?
Her moral advocacy does not belong in a powerful office such as the United States presidency office. That's
and
what
there's
I'm saying.
A lot more to it than just that, right? Like so for me, one of the biggest things is, Kamala's corporate hack, okay? And I know like people are so worried about the oligarchy, as they keep saying, but I mean, bro, we've been under a fucking oligarchy. Like there's no denying that we've been under an oligarchy. Like there's literally these massive investment firms, what they've created with ESG and DEI, they've created a system in which they can essentially control how the market does based on a criteria that they set. And that empowers massive corporations because they have the capital to navigate all of these different regulations that they want to push and like call into law. That's essentially what the Green New Deal was. The Green New Deal was essentially a push towards like making the ESG format something that was more of, at least like in the environmental sense, but making that something that was committed to by law. That's what the Green New Deal was pushing, right?
And a massive
spending bill that would have pushed all of these major corporations and businesses by and large to do that. The issue with that, though, is smaller businesses don't have the capital to navigate those regulations. And that would cause nothing but even a greater wealth transfer than what happened back in 2020.
Yes, on that note, buddy, these small trucking carriers, that all the ones that are selling right now, you can go out to anywhere in California and you can snag up a truck that's pre-emissions, DEF, no DEF, no DPF, twice as reliable. It's got 3.5 million miles on it, and you can snag them up for cheap. And by the way, if anybody's listening and you got 30K sitting on the side to go spend on a truck, you can bring that back on the East Coast and sell that truck for 50K. But all those trucks are sitting on the sidelines because, like you said, buddy, these small businesses cannot compete. Well, they can't compete. What are you going to do with your equipment? You can't go buy a brand new Peterbilt, brand new Kenworth. Nope, not possible.
Right now,
regulations only help the rich.
I just want to answer this question from Calvin. So that's I understand where you're coming from with that, and I probably should have rephrased what I said earlier better. What I meant was having somebody that is willing to put someone in jail for doing something they themselves did. That a person with that kind of moral compass. Trump has not done that. He's
not
never
only that
line before.
We're comparing it.
Kamala Harris, like famously as DA in California, put a lot of people, I don't know the exact number, put a lot of people in jail for possession of marijuana, just smoking it. And when someone asked her, she asked her if she ever smoked weed, she laughed
She lied and said she smoked with Tupac when Tupac was dead when the time she was DA.
Yeah, I mean that's she's anyway.
But I agree. And I'm not saying that Trump has a better moral compass, but Trump has a better compass whenever it comes to the ideological view of America. When we're looking at Avery, a blue collar worker, that's the kind of people that are more entailed to look at a man like Trump when he's saying, I'm going to work for you. That's the point that we're making. Kamala
he makes
Harris.
a lot of sense economically.
Yeah. Not even economically. It's more along the lines of the morality of it as well.
But his foreign policy lately, I'm not impressed.
Oh, his foreign policy sucks lately. I'll fucking admit it.
Yeah,
he's not doing what he was elected to do, and that's the gripe that we all have. He's not fulfilling the promises that he made to us, the electorate, that he said he's going to make America great again, and we're going to get out of these wars, and we're going to get out of this, and we're going to get out of that. He's not doing any of that, and that's where we are truly sitting up and saying, you're not doing what we thought you were supposed to do. So now we're going to voice our concerns and voice our reprimands about it.
All right.
What's up, Calvin? Welcome, man.
Good evening, panel. How y'all doing?
Good, man.
Good. How about you, brother?
I'm well. I'm well. Actually, my first time viewer. Got
Thanks,
to
man.
you via the Rob redirect. So just I had it popping. I am a independent. I'm not of Dem or Republican, but I generally lean or identify with a lot of the Dem policies and things of that nature. So that's kind of my political stance. And I like hearing different points of views and discussing different people. I would consider myself a lot like you, lower class. I'm not deeply into politics, but recent presidencies and mostly mainly Trump has made me very politically conscious and things of that nature. So, just trying to find my groove and things of that nature and understanding what's going on. But I'm really curious as to, at this point in time, people who have voted for Trump. And I'm curious as a lot of people I've seen are having buyer's remorse to a degree, because definitely inspects a lot of what has happened. So I'm just curious as to when people say they don't regret their vote, on what basis or grounds that is. And I did hear some of what you said, but I didn't hear all of it. I apologize.
Oh,
That's
no,
okay.
you're good, man. Yeah. So me personally, the reason I don't regret my vote is just because it's in stark contrast to what just the continuation of the Biden presidency would have been, and if anything speaks to what that would have looked like, Biden for president registered Kamala and Biden as their candidate, like a recipient candidate, at the same time for this election. If that tells you anything about how similar these two would have been. Now, Biden, his whole concept was like a return to normalcy, and I'm not whataboutisming here. I'm just kind of explaining, the way everything went. He pushed for a return to normalcy, and his entire presidency was the exact opposite of that. So let's say we were coming up towards the end of 2020. Like the whole country was like reeling away from lockdowns, and we were actually returning to normalcy, at least in some degree. There was still COVID at that point. There was still masks. There was still this. There was still that. When you run on the concept of returning to normalcy, they're going to think like we're just going to get back to our daily lives. But instead, he did things like try to usurp our Fourth Amendment by usurp our right to privacy by using OSHA to develop like violations of HIPAA laws. I mean, it's all sorts of these crazy things that he did throughout his presidency, throwing, rainbow colors all over the White House while he was speaking. And then as Kamala took over, she didn't really go against any of his policies as she ran, right? And maybe that was just a messaging mistake, but she literally said she didn't regret anything they did, and that's where that comes from to me, is we just would have had a continuation of everything that had been going on, right? So like the Green New Deal and all of these concepts slowly pushing away from our literally like the world's largestly traded commodity, those laws would have affected us, but would not have affected any other countries, right? That would have put us behind. The pausing of all of the new oil leases and kind of the slow degradation of our energy independence. I mean, we became completely dependent upon OPEC. That's why, like, when the gas prices went up, it was always something else's fault, but it was never ours. It was always, well, Russia's on the border of Ukraine, but we don't really. At that time, we hadn't really been largely buying oil through Russia. Most of the Russian oil was being bought by the EU. And we started buying a lot from OPEC, and we blamed them for raising the prices. And then there was all of these different things, just a total lack of accountability. And trust me, I know Trump, he's lacking accountability right now. So I get it. I get where you're about to come with that. Okay. But
I got a couple things I'd like to point out.
Okay.
So Calvin, are you tracking?
Yeah.
So when Biden and Kamala came in, one of the first things they did, like Buddy said, was they ended oil leases. I have a number of friends that work out in the oil field. They got laid off, right? And of course the government footed the bill, paid for their unemployment, but that's not good for our economy. And when Ron DeSantis was opposing the lockdowns at the very beginning of their administration, Ron DeSantis, you're familiar with him, at Florida, right? When he opposed the lockdowns, they ended 3 different permits on nuclear power plants in Florida, citing that they were not up to par when it came to safety. They were perfectly fine. The reason they did that is so that way Florida has to depend on oil, which further increased the price of oil. Now, like Buddy said, OPEC. Well, what's the greenest energy in the world? The greenest energy in the world is nuclear. Why would you end leases on nuclear power if you're pro green energy? It's the greenest energy in the world. It'll operate for 30 to 50 years if it's run and maintained properly, right? And so what did we do? Well, we bought a bunch of oil from OPEC, and then we also bought a bunch of oil from Russia. We, the American people, we funded Russia's ability to take on Ukraine because we paid them. We gave them all our money. We bought their oil. We funded that. So we're funding their ability to take on Ukraine. And then we also are funding Ukraine to take on Russia. That makes 0 sense. that's what happened.
We also sold a pretty decent portion of our emergency oil reserves to China as well.
And I love how, and this is not a dig towards anybody on the panel, and I love how, and Calvin, I have no ill will towards you, and this isn't towards you either. I love how people pull up the whole Biden produced more oil than any other president, more than Trump. Okay, but he did not produce the oil. The oil was already there. All he did was tapped into the reserve funds and pumped out more so that he could sell more oil to OPEC and to other countries. He didn't produce that oil. That oil was already laid in wait. You actually break the number down per capita for the oil and numbers of barrels produced during Obama, during Trump first, and during Biden. Trump produced more oil to where we were finally a net exporter of oil to all countries. Other countries were actually buying the oil from us at a cheaper rate, to where if we would have had that ban in place during Biden, Russia wouldn't have had any money to fucking fund that war in the Ukraine.
Right.
I would say,
Calvin, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. Are you sure about the claim that we bought oil from Russia during the Biden administration? Are you sure about that claim?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure we bought oil from Russia. I know we were primarily buying it from OPEC. I don't know if we were actually buying it from Russia.
Okay, I think let's say it's Alwine. How do we pronounce your name? Alwine. A-L. How do we pronounce your name? I'm sorry.
Ashton. It's Ashton.
Ashton is at the top right. He's muted. Well, he's the one. I think he said. I think he was the one that put that claim out there. So that's what I was trying to clarify. So you guys did put a lot of pots on the burner. I'll try to address most of them. I have one quick question to start us off. Back when during the campaign phase, when you had Trump against Ron, against Vivek, against who was the other person? You know them, the governors, Christie, all those, right?
Yeah.
So my question to you guys, at that point in time, who was your political pick to be the nominee for the RNC for 2024?
I was
Hey,
hoping for DeSantis,
Calvin.
to be honest with you.
Hey, Calvin, I was the one that asserted that we bought oil from Russia, and we in fact did.
So we bought oil from Russia during 2020 to 2024.
No, we haven't bought any Russia since 2022. I actually looked this up. So we were buying oil from Russia before the invasion. We stopped buying Russian oil, and then immediately there was a price increase in gas because OPEC basically had no competition in the market to who they could sell to in America, so they raised the price on us.
So we funded the war.
So okay, so 2022 was the stop date for buying oil from Russia.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I had asked a question about who was your pick for RNC nomination for 2024. I'm just curious.
For 2024,
I was saying DeSantis.
Who said DeSantis?
I did. Ashton.
Okay.
See,
for me,
really.
Go ahead, Avery.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, bro.
It's your shit, bro.
Oh yeah. So I really liked Vivek Ramaswamy. I had more of like a tinfoil hat kind of thing. I thought that Vivek Ramaswamy was kind of a plant by the Trump administration, so he could essentially like go through all of his legal troubles and everything, and then still have somebody win the election for him. But then when the debates came out and he actually won, I was pretty shocked. And then how all the legal troubles turned out for him. I mean, he essentially like walked away from all that, which a lot of that stuff was bullshit. And it's a fair argument to say that the charges that he did get were misdemeanors until they used like this kind of strange legal theory to turn him into felonies. It was solely based on him hiding a crime, and then when he was convicted, none of the judge specifically told the jury that they were to base. Oh, Ashton, what up, man? Welcome back. They were to base his case off of, did he do these things to hide a crime? But you don't have to agree what the crime was. That's a pretty weird and sketchy turn of events when it came to that. So, but anyway, regardless, all that aside, I was more of a Vivek Ramaswamy kind of guy, but I'm happier with the way it turned out. And the only reason was because I was pretty sure Trump was going to get, Epsteined or something like that.
I was a Trump guy just based on his first run with the economy. I made more money in the trucking industry than I have made since, right, annually. I figured he was going to do things the way he did the first time, but I don't know, that we have yet to find out. So I guess that's my take.
Okay, I was just curious. So yeah, so okay. Let me look back at what some of you statements made by you all. Okay, so something that you said, you're talking about the oil. So, and someone said that the oil would was going to be cut off under Kamala and the Biden administration. You had a concern about the oil.
They stopped renewing the leases when they were in. I have a few friends that worked out in the oil field, and when they got in about a year in, the leases were no longer renewed out in Texas, so they were without a job.
Yeah, and he did that day one. That was one of his first executive orders.
Well, it took about a year to go into play.
to renew those
Yeah.
leases. Okay,
Yeah.
I heard differently in
And
terms of
pause any new ones as well.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, I did want to just say, hey, thanks guys for the loving chat and stuff like that. Calvin, you seem like a very great dude. Even though you're independent, that's okay. We still accept you for who you are.
I think that
But I'm gonna hop off here for a little bit. Lower class, I'll still be in watching and listening to you guys, but I gotta go spend some time with the kiddos and stuff before I have to get back to work tomorrow. So
Yeah, dude.
All right,
Happy
cool.
Father's
Thanks for
Day,
joining,
man.
man.
hey, man, and Calvin, again, even though you're an independent, you're all right in my book, and we accept you on our team.
well,
All right, see you, bro.
I'm 1000% anti-Trump. So
You can be. Listen, this was my only gripe with Doug. I am okay with a difference of opinion, and I am okay with you not liking Trump and you not liking what I like. But at the end of the day, when you can say to me that Trump bad because of this, and I say, okay, Democrat bad because of this, and you can't argue for your side saying that Democrats are bad because we say they're good, that's when I start to have a problem with people. But if you can condemn the same actions that you're condemning from my side that I'm condemning from your side, then we can still be friends and still have a conversation about it. That's what I appreciate.
yeah. So I think there is a need for the Democrats to recognize their flaws on their end, and there is some things that uh, they're guilty of as well. However, when we're comparing apples and orange to orange, I don't think you can really compare the stuff that Trump does with what the Democrats, most of the things that he's guilty of, to what the Democrats does, because what Trump does is unprecedented, it's next level, it's not, and it's non-comparison. Like if you look at January 6th, you can't compare that to any other president. There's no one that did that, whatever. So that's when we start to compare stuff. That's how I kind of see it
Hey,
when we,
Calvin,
yeah.
I'm gonna point some out to you on that. So, January 6th, and I think we were discussing this maybe a week ago. I think
Mhm.
Buddy and I were discussing this. And when you look at January 6th, the only casualties in January 6th were Republicans. Republicans were the only ones that died. So that is a well, I would say it's a problem that's kind of contained, right? When you look at the riots that went on, that were in cities across America, particularly Chaz and or Chop or whatever you want to call that city that was taken over, and the autonomous zone, those were way more destructive than January 6th, just by comparison, right? And I'm okay with conjecture here. That's just my take. I'm looking at it objectively.
So here's what I can't, me per se, I can't compare the riots that took place during the BML with what took place against what happened on January 6th. They're just like, that's not apples to apples to me. Because when I look at the targeted audience or the target of the aggression, there's no comparison. At the end of the day, if you want to look at what the BML or what the rioters or what the rulers were doing, they were probably attacking cops. They were maybe, I think they killed some people or whatever the case may be. They also looted business and things of that nature. However, but
Yeah.
when we look at January 6th and who that was, that was like an attempted assassination of all of Congress, all of the Democratic side of the Congress. That's you
I
can't.
don't
And I
think there
think
was any. There was no. There wasn't very many politicians in the White House at the time. I don't even think they had any in there.
okay. Wait a
And
minute.
by
Wait a
the
minute. Wait a
way,
minute. Okay. Wait a minute.
go ahead. Go. Go ahead,
That's just
bro.
that just attacked my the rationale. Like you hit me hard in the head with the. You said you don't. There were no
No, they were all
politicians.
taken downstairs and ushered away.
Okay.
And they were let in by the guards. The
How
guards in
does
front of the
how does
White
how does
House.
how does that statement change my point, or the point that is being made?
Well, I would rather one building be tore up and messed up than a whole bunch of small business owners, people like you and me and everybody else that's normal American. That's not fair.
Well, I'm definitely not defending looting or and even killing cops, killing people, or attacking people. I'm not defending that. I guess I'm looking at which one is worse. When I look at killing all of the Democrats and also killing your VP, I would weigh that as more of a detriment of a threat than some
I don't
looting.
believe any politicians died during January 6th.
But that
I've not heard
you're
anything of that.
you're yeah, correct. No one died. I'm not looking at what was the result. I'm looking at what they attempted to do.
Oh, you're basing it on potential destruction versus actual destruction.
Yes and no. If you ask me what is worse, getting shot in the head versus getting stick by needle or whatever the case may be, then I think that's relative to the discussion if we're talking about which action is actually worse. I wouldn't be
Would you?
comparing a needle, which is harmful, a stick to your leg or whatever, in comparison to getting shot in the head. They're just different.
When you
Different.
say needle versus getting shot in the head, what do you mean?
If we're looking at which is more of a threat, threat, I would say that the shot to head is more of a concern and more of something that we should be concerned about.
So do you think so there was a number of people that were shot, physically shot during the riots in these cities, and there was only one woman that I know of that died during the January 6th. So I'm trying to understand where the needle comes in.
So yeah, um so when I ask myself which one would do more damage, the needle in a leg or a shot to head, then the potential to getting shot in the head is, I would say, be much worse. Would you agree?
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure only one person died in January 6th. Multiple people
Okay,
died in the
okay,
city
okay,
riots.
okay. But my notion is that January 6th, they looked to take out all of the Democrats. They were looking for Nancy Pelosi. They were looking for Chuck Schumer. They were looking for everybody because I'm sure they weren't going to try to feed them or fix their hair or dress them up or whatever. They were looking for them to do some harm, and they even chanted "Hang Mike Pence." So, for so
I,
from
I I I don't
so
agree with that at all, man. I don't think they had like incredibly violent intention for people in Congress. Because if they did, they
they
wouldn't have been like led around and directed around and taken
so
selfies with the people who were there. And there
but
was like
Yeah, that's
there's no
hypothetical in
evidence
my
that was
opinion.
even what there's a lot of conjecture there. Yeah, they said hang Mike Pence, and they brought out like the shitty little gallows thing, but a lot of that's just an intimidation tactic. Like, which fair. There's an argument for that, 100%. Were they trying to intimidate? Absolutely, I can
so
totally get behind that. But to when they really didn't. I mean, nobody was gravely injured other than one of the protesters on that day.
Yeah, that girl that was shot in the head by a
Ashley Babbitt,
guard.
yeah, she got killed. And I'm not even necessarily calling her like innocent because I don't know what led up to that. I haven't read that much into it. So she could have been doing some crazy shit and ended up getting popped. That's kind of along those lines. If that's what happened, it's a fuck around and find out situation, 100%. But I mean, there's really no evidence that they were going into the Capitol building to like kill a bunch of politicians. There's no evidence of that whatsoever.
so what do you, hypothetically speaking? Well, number one, let me back up a little bit. So you say when they said hang Mike Pence, we shouldn't take them that literally. I mean, we should interpret them as them actually intending to do that.
Intending to hang Mike Pence?
That's what they said.
I mean,
Okay, so we don't disagree that they say that. We agree
yeah,
that
no,
they said, okay,
100%.
cool,
They had the
cool.
signs and stuff, absolutely.
So
They brought
if
out the fake
if
gallows and
if
everything.
if they
100%.
said if they say hang Mike Pence, I'm gonna believe that that's what they meant unless they state otherwise. So if in terms of
So here's my question for you.
go
Hold on,
ahead,
hold on, hold on. I
go
have
ahead.
one question for you,
Uh-huh.
and this is just like a correlation thing.
Okay.
The people that held those signs and the people that brought the gallows, did any of them ever make it into the Capitol?
Oh, wait a minute. I don't know. I don't know for sure. I guess all of them in
Correct.
Capital.
That's what I'm saying. So there's a lot of like a lot of lines drawn here where there's things that aren't fully fleshed out. Because you can say one person holds up a sign
Mhm.
that says hang Mike Pence, but that's not the general sentiment of everyone around. There's only one person holding that sign. If there was only one person, if there were multiple people, that's applied to them. But what I'm saying is, it's it's not safe. First off, it's a dangerous kind of thing to apply a blanket observation to to make a blanket conclusion from like a specific observation. And like that happens a lot, bro. And I'm not saying that both sides don't do that, right? But what I'm just trying to bring forward the point that, you know, a lot of things that very small, yeah, right, exactly. But a lot of things that a few people do get applied to a very broad, it's used as a with a broad brush across a lot of people that really don't share that sentiment. There's a lot of people that were specifically up there because of whether or not it was true, which I don't believe it was, that a lot of people thought that the election was stolen from Trump, right? And they were up there because they were pissed off and they just wanted to make their voices heard. And that's by and large what most people there did. There wasn't a shitload of people that made it into the Capitol building. Yes, there were people that busted windows out. Yes, there were people that stole shit when they did get inside. 100%. I'm not going to argue that. And those people deserve to go to jail and stay in jail, right? But there was a lot of people there that were just there to protest. And the few people that had the edgy signs trying to paint that like every J6 protester as the same exact, going there with the same exact intention, with the same exact rhetoric. It's first off, it's not logical, but second, it's dangerous because then you're isolating a lot of people that had a genuine concern that could have easily been explained, but the messaging honestly never was. You know, to me, that's really what it comes down to, right? So, like, I think if they would have been honest with the way things had gone in 2020 and the things that led up to Donald Trump losing the election, that would have been much better than just calling him a liar, saying there's no evidence for his claims, and then calling everyone that went to the Capitol building that day evil and an insurrectionist. Because, yes, what he was saying didn't really have a lot of evidence to back it up. Yes, there was election fraud, but there's election fraud in every election. There was election fraud in this last election. There was election fraud in the 2016 election. There was election fraud in the 2012 election, right? So there's no denying that, but there's no evidence that amount of fraud led to him winning. And really, it's kind of easily explainable where you had an entire country that was getting cabin fever for an entire year because they were locked up in their houses. Things still weren't opened all the way back up by November. Life had completely turned upside down. Businesses were closing. People were like literally almost entire cities were being burned. There was CASHAPP, like people taking over massive parts of the city. That's an insurrection in itself, you know. But aside from that, what I'm saying is there were a lot of factors that led to Donald Trump being essentially like kicked out, not kicked out, but what's up, Scott? Good to see you, man. There was a lot of factors that led to Biden winning in 2020. And those were, yeah, Ashton. I mean, like, I don't doubt that at all. Right. But I just don't see how no one's made the correlation to, like, by numbers of how of Biden winning through fraudulent voting. Like, no one's made that correlation yet, you know. But what I'm saying is, instead of just going over all of the factors that actually led to Biden winning, they chastise all the people that believe Trump. And yes, we can totally agree. There was an element of responsibility that he should take for riling up the people in his base with those claims. 100% agree. But you can't say that he's responsible for January 6th. Like,
Well,
I like to look at people as sovereign beings. They make their own decisions. And Trump would have to have control or have those people on payroll in order for him to be responsible for January 6th. And he had neither of those things.
So let me ask you this, then. You put a lot out there. I'll just tag on the most recent thing that you did say, and that's blaming Trump for the actions of the January 6er. There was this. I'm using an example. There was this famous YouTuber. I can't recall or whatever, and he said, I'm giving away free games or sneakers or something in the middle of New York Square or something like that, meet me at 6 p.m. or wherever the case may be. We can Google and research the story. But the long story short, him as an organizer and calling all his fans and people to that day caused a lot. I think it caused a lot of destruction, whatever the case may be, because he's the one that called his people and brought them out there, and it totally ravaged the street. And as a result, if I'm not mistaken, he definitely got called into court. And I think he was somehow held accountable, punished, or somewhat, whatever, for the event, because he was the organizer. He called the people to the event. So if that is true, and we can kind of research that, and he got held accountable and punished, and he had to pay some retribution for calling those people. Do you agree with? Do you? Would you agree with the law if they came down hard on him?
Well, you said it right there. So the biggest thing is, like you even said right in the beginning, that he was offering them some form of fiscal valued incentive, right? Whether it be money or things in order to go there. So he offered like a tangible value for them to go. Where Trump was he literally just said, fight like hell, let them hear your voice, right?
Well, he also said keep it peaceful. Don't do anything radical.
Yeah, 100%. But regardless, like, they made their own decision at that point to do whatever they wanted to with that.
Yeah.
But there was no like tangible incentive for them to go. I think that's why that guy who called all those people into Times Square or whatever, that's why he could be held accountable. I promise you, if you look through the court case, I would promise you that would be what it came down to.
Because he offered some people of something of value for them showing up, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's a value incentive, right?
No, I think that doesn't. I don't see how that would factor. I think the rationale behind him getting caught up or being faulted is because he organized. It was him that called the group there. It had nothing. Let's say he wanted to meet them, just a meet and greet. So are you saying that if he wanted to say hello to a bunch of fans or whatever and show his car off, that he wouldn't be prosecuted because it was nothing of value?
Well, wouldn't that be under right to assemble? That is your right to assemble, right?
Yeah, and I guess what the question would be is the bad part of January 6th to you, Calvin, is that the people going to the Capitol building and protesting, or the people who busted inside and fought with cops?
The people that busted inside, they're welcome to go to the Capitol and do whatever they want to do.
Right. So all Trump did was tell them to make your voices heard.
Well, yeah, he told them to make voices heard, and then he also said some other stuff. But what's is most telling to me what Trump intent was, that when it started to happen, he didn't interject or, for the most part, intercede at all to stop the events as they were unfolding.
So Calvin,
wait a minute.
Go ahead.
I get like 10 seconds, and you get like 30 minutes. So like,
I hadn't said anything.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me. You put a lot of pots on the stove, so I like to have to pick which pots, and then more pots get placed on the stove for me. So
I've been sitting on this. So I got you though.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You go ahead. Go ahead, Avery.
So, in comparison, we look at actual casualties, which was Ashley Babbitt, and then you look at a place like Chaz, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, right? Ashley.
Hello. Did he?
Avery, you there?
Avery can't hear you.
Check 1 2. Can you hear me?
There you go. You're back up, man.
Okay, sorry. So Ashley Babbitt was one casualty, and then in Chaz, the autonomous zone, there was 4 different casualties to people being shot. And so what I'm pointing out is, like, it's different when you have one that's actual versus hypothetical. And then, in Chaz, that was in left-wing city, liberal city, that was 4 people died to guns violence.
I'm sorry, you finished?
So yeah, that's my only point, is that 4 people died at Chaz versus the one that was in January 6th.
Okay. So why where I would, let's say, that example is not comparable is that I can't link that action to say one specific politician per se, because we're talking about the actions of a politician. If you can link that to Biden, or if you can link that to Kamala, or if you can link that to Nancy Pelosi, then we can have a discussion. But when you're talking about what the actions of just average Democrats they do in Democrat City, that doesn't compare when I'm looking at Donald Trump and his people, MAGA. So that I can't really I would say use that or accept that as a necessary example to what we're talking about this time, which has to do with Donald Trump and his supporters, which are MAGA supporters that went to the Capitol. So when we go back and forth about whether what he said to go forward peacefully or not, or you got to fight hard. What I look at Donald Trump's actions as it was happening. If Donald Trump truly was against what was happening, Donald Trump's actions would be similar to what happened in California. They wouldn't have to call and beg to get him on the phone. And when they call or whatever and ask, he was more concerned about the votes or whatever, as opposed to the safety of his people. So that kind of
Well,
tells me the actions or what was going on in the operation of Donald Trump's mind at this point in time.
now it's already been proven, dude, that he preemptively tried to order National Guard to be there at the Capitol building to protect it, and it was rejected. The Master Sergeant at Arms underneath Nancy Pelosi
Are you
even
sure
admitted
about
that.
that? Are you sure about that, Laura
Yes, yes,
Class?
100%. The Master
Okay.
Sergeant at Arms beneath Nancy Pelosi has corroborated that story.
I think what I heard, or the most recent update I heard, that it was offered and she said have it on standby. She never rejected it. It was supposed to be on standby and they asked for it. We could do a
Well,
fact check.
Jenny Durkin was the mayor of Seattle, Washington, and she didn't give a crap that Chaz went on for at least 2 weeks. She did not care. So is it better to say, hey, protest, but keep it peaceful? Or is it better to be Jenny Durkin so you have something going on 2 weeks where 4 people die? And that's not counting the overdose deaths. I don't
So
know. I feel like Seattle, Washington was worse.
Again, if you can connect that to me to a specific representative and their party being
Jenny Durkin,
specifically, who's Jenny Darkins?
the mayor of Seattle during Chaz. She did not care at all. And she told the
No, 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 no,
officers
no, 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 no.
specifically, no, Jenny
Avery,
Durkin, let me point this out.
Avery,
She said,
Avery.
stand down.
Go ahead.
She said, stand down. Jenny Durkins did in Seattle, Washington, the mayor. She told the officers to stand down. That is, to me, worse than something that went on for one day.
I would need to see proof of that, and I would need to, number one, see proof of her being responsible for those people, directing those people to go out
2
there.
weeks, do you think she didn't notice or something? What she didn't notice? She's the mayor.
I would need to have a comparable example where
That
she
is
was
100% comparable.
where
That's
she
implied.
was
That's
the
implicit. She's
leader. She
implicit.
was the leader of the group. She directed them to do such a thing.
She's the mayor.
Okay, that doesn't mean she
She's responsible for her city, man.
okay. So
That's your job as the mayor. You
I
can't
recognize
overlook something like that.
I recognize you like to go down that line, but I'm not specifically going to entertain that unless you can give me an example of
Hey, I don't.
MAGA is
If you
Trump.
can't see that, then I don't even know what to say
MAGA
from there.
MAGA is Trump. That's his people. He called them to Washington D.C. He directed his people, MAGA supporters, to January to the Capitol. I
You
need an
don't think
example.
you
I
don't
need an
think
example
anybody
that
on the
matches
left
that.
you don't
I
think
need an
anybody on the left showed up
I
just to fuck shit up?
I
Doing
need
that
an
egg.
example that correlates to that. And BML protests that had some rioters in certain areas does not compare because you can't link that to a specific politician.
Yes, I can. Jenny Durkin. She was implicit. She let it ride. She told him to stand down. That didn't
So
happen by accident. She didn't forget and not notice in her own city.
So I think Laura, I was looking for someone who clarified that issue. I know it saw recently on CNN panel where they were going back and forth about that same issue about the cops being there and what Nancy Pelosi did. I'm going to try to see if I can find that for us.
That's okay. That's fine.
But while we're doing that, you had made a statement a few seconds back. You said you were you were discussing the people at January 6th, and you were pretty much saying that most of the people that came out there were the majority of people were just there to protest, and there was just a very few that was out there to do harm and damage. Is that correct?
Comparatively, yeah.
So I would generally disagree with that notion only because if it was just a few people, as I don't know how much is a few to you, the cops that were there, they would be able to handle just a few people. And
well, they let them inside.
Well, that's after the fact. After if you don't break over and beating up cops or whatever, of course, yeah, you overwhelm them. They're gonna let you inside. They can't do anything else.
At first, I watched it live. At first,
so yeah, so Avery, let me ask you this: when the first person came up and wanted to get in, I guess they opened up the doors to let them in. Is that what you're saying happened?
Well, when they approached the front door, there was like probably about 5 people or whatever, and one of the Capitol Police picked up the gate out from the hooks, picked it up and moved it over and just opened the door.
Ask you, so they opened the door and let them in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So okay. So when their first people came up and tried to get inside, the cops opened the door and let them in, everyone in.
Yeah, and at first everything was fine. It was just people walking through, like big crowds of people walking through.
Oh my. Okay. Lowercase. I don't have an answer for someone who is not comporting with reality. That did not happen.
Okay.
What's your reference? Sorry, I haven't been following the conversation. What didn't happen?
The Capitol Police left and let them inside. They let the people inside on January 6th.
They did, yeah, 100%.
No. That's not what it was being asked. We're talking about how it all played out. He's arguing that they were let in. I said they were only let in because they were the people who were at the doors, at the gates, or whatever the case may be. They eventually let them in because they were overwhelmed.
Yeah, there was a class of cops, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So they were stopping them. They were trying to prevent them from accessing the building, right? Because the people.
Well, at first they were just there. They were just chilling.
Okay, so let's accurately tell what happened. People were out there protesting. They were not permitted to be inside the Capitol at that point in time because they were handling business. So off top, they were not allowed, which is why they had cops out there to block them. So the reason why they got in, or people started letting them in afterwards, is because they got beat down and overwhelmed to the point that they had to retreat inside the Capitol building.
Well, they also held them off long enough to get all the members of Congress out of the building safely.
True. That's why they were in the basement. That's why they were. Well, they didn't let them out the building. Right? They weren't let out the building. They went into hiding in their offices and things of that nature.
They were taken to the basement and escorted via the train.
That's not true. Why?
I'm not.
Why do you keep saying things that are demonstrably false?
No. It's obvious, dude. Nancy Pelosi was in her car driving away.
Okay,
Calvin.
Do we need to play the video with people up there inside the Capitol and the cops are at the door and they're on their knees praying, calling on Jesus or whatever, because there are people outside the door and the cops are barricading there? Do we need to play the video? Because you telling me that.
I mean, hey, you can play that one, but then we're also going to play the one where they were taking selfies.
No. See, this is See, this is the problem with I find with a lot of Trump supporters. There's the truth is not your friend. Reality is not your friend, because in order to accept reality, you have to accept certain facts. And now I'm hearing a bunch of tales of things that is objectively not false. If you have eyeballs and you can see, we know what you're saying is not. It's not true. So it's like telling me that the grass is blue and the sky and the earth is square. These are demonstrably false information. So why do you choose to peddle in false information that we know are false, and we have
Hey,
eyeballs?
Calvin, I don't care how they got in at fucking all. Chaz went on for 2 weeks, and January 6th was 1 day. 4 people died in Chaz. Ashley Babbitt died January 6th. I don't give a fuck how it played out. One was way worse than the other, clearly. One was a whole city. One was one building.
Okay.
So if you're arguing apples to apples, as you said, yeah, Chaz was far worse. And it was done on Jenny's watch. She was implicit.
Okay. Let me figure out how to share this. This is from News Nation. So that's News Nation is definitely a pretty
News Nation. Go ahead.
Would you not say so? Would you not say News Nation is like
Wait a minute,
pretty
News
objective?
Nation? I can tell if I see
Not Newsmax.
Okay,
News Nation.
Okay. Go ahead. I might be staying correct. Yeah, it's part of Newsmax.
Yeah. Newsmax is heavily pro-Trump. 100%. I can agree with that. Let me see here. Okay. It would be this one. Is that sharing?
Oh no, we can't see anything. I can't see it. Okay, it's coming
Chris,
now.
Okay,
Scott, you two as well. Hello, hello. Lauren Ford, we got the order mixed up, but we got it right here on this side. Yeah. January 6th, tapes released. Why? Why did the speaker do it now?
Well, you can bet that if they would have been exculpatory, if they would have been helpful in some way to Republican arguments that this was just a demonstration or whatever, we would have seen these a lot. We'd have seen this a lot sooner. This is the term that you were looking for before is a turkey drop. When you have news that you don't want to have a long life in the news cycle, the Friday before Thanksgiving week in the afternoon is a primo time to start thawing that bird.
I remember sitting in the basement of the White House when I was there in the Hillary Clinton emails.
Yes.
And like every Friday before a holiday, it was like, here we go. Here comes some more Hillary Clinton emails. And bang, there they were. But Lauren Ford, when you see the House Speaker releasing this, he says it's a promise that he delivered upon. Is this good for Republicans? Like, why do they want this out there?
No, I'm of the mind that this is not good for Republicans anytime Americans are reminded of January 6th. I don't think a lot of people are going to sit and watch 40,000 plus hours or whatever it is.
Right.
But every time this is in the news, it's bad for Donald Trump. When it initially happened, his approval plummeted. 53% of Americans wanted him out of office. I don't see, no matter how you slice it, how this can possibly be spun into good news, except for maybe the transparency argument.
Well, I think the transparency argument is important. I do think that the public has been largely misled about January 6th. I'm not saying this is going to help Republicans politically, but at the same time, I will say Kevin McCarthy made a promise to release these tapes, and he didn't do it. And now there's a new sheriff in town, and Mike Johnson in the Republican conference, and he did. I will say, look, there's 1,100 people charged in January 6th.
Yep.
No one's saying January 6th is a good thing. At the same time, I will say that it appears to be.
But you just used the word misled.
Sorry.
Sorry, no, you used the word.
You're the Democrat.
Is that what you just hit on, or too? Or?
Right.
Yeah.
They were misled. I think they released it because there is some footage of some peaceful demonstrators who were in Capitol Hill, but they're far outnumbered by the violence and the pictures and the videos of police being attacked and police defending themselves. I don't know what they would be misled about, but Trump is going to argue that there were some peaceful demonstrators and perhaps the violent demonstrators really weren't his supporters, but perhaps some far left activists. I don't know. But this doesn't help. And I think it hurts the GOP and Donald Trump.
Can you capture some of that sentiment, though, Ford, when you talk about misled? What exactly do you mean?
I'm saying that the public was been misled by the Democrats for almost 2 years, calling it an insurrection, and it's not an insurrection. It is a riot. It's a riot that got out of control. In
That's an insurrection.
More than no, it is not an insurrection.
Does anybody have a dictionary when 5 police officers
that's the point right there. It's the insurrection. They want to keep saying that.
So Scott, go. Scott.
They wanted to stop the peaceful transfer of power. They've said that 1,100 people have been prosecuted. Police officers have died. That's an insurrection.
One police officer died, and
I
the
think
question
5 did.
140 police officers were assaulted. My point is the Democrats have been using this as a political weapon for the last 2 years, and they've been lying to the American public.
Trump drives the negative narrative, and
right,
the GOP drives the negative narrative. Look at the videos.
Joining us now. Thank you for watching, and make sure you go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.
So my question with that solely is, if those people and their aim was to kill people that were in Congress, why would the police be leading a line of them into the halls of Congress?
You may answer that.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what I saw, or I understand. At the point where they were leading people through the Capitol is because they had already coordinated with other people that the other politicians were hidden away. So they were actually leading them to routes that did not actually have where certain politicians were. I remember one clip where who was it? What's the Utah guy, the Utah senator who's no longer there. Any rate, the cops were coming up and whatever the case may be, and he took off running or whatever the case may be and hiding or whatever the case may be. But to your point, the cops were leading them to areas that were impacting towards where the politicians were hiding out at.
So then I guess what my next point would be, does that not seem like a miserable failure on the cops' part that they would let people who were actively there to kill American elected officials through the halls of Congress at all? That they would take that to, hey, we're going to move you through these specific halls where we know people are hidden. That just doesn't track to me, friend. I'm sorry, bro.
I guess the
stretch.
I guess the factor that you're missing, I think you're taking into the fact that they actually wanted them to do that they were willing to do that. The way I interpret it, they had no other choice. As the person in your video just stated, they were overwhelmed. They could not stop it. They could only direct the flow. At that point in time, they could not stop it because they had broken all barriers. So at this point in time, they can only lead these people, because they couldn't control them, to where they wanted to go, which is trick them, whatever the case may be. So I guess that's what I've seen. That's the information I've gotten. It's not that they, hey, come, we know you're going to hurt somebody or whatever. Let's go. Let me show you where they're at. No, they had no other choice.
So they did have them at some point contained, and they had orchestrated things with them. That's what you're saying right now. You realize that?
No. When did?
Yes, you are. Because listen to me, Calvin. Just so I can be very clear here.
Okay.
You're saying they were completely overwhelmed and didn't have any other choice. If they were completely overwhelmed and didn't have any other choice, no one would have followed suit with them. The Capitol building would have been completely, insurmountably overrun with people. There would not have been any kind of order. There wouldn't have been selfies being taken.
That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. They were overrun. Everyone got access.
If they were overrun and it was taken over, then why would anybody listen to the fucking cops? I think we saw specifically in that video, they had them contained to one part of the Capitol building at one point.
lwrclas, how much did you dedicate a lot of time looking at the footage from January 6th and saw what happened?
Oh, brother, I just saw that in the video we just watched.
Oh, well, that's just a portion. I mean, that doesn't give you the whole rundown of what actually happened. I think of, like, The what I saw the January 6th hearing, watched a lot of the footage, not all of it, or whatever the case may be. But I basically understand what happened. To me, I understand what happened. They got overwhelmed at the front door. They got beat down. That's what, and they couldn't hold them off any longer. Whatever the case may be, they hold them off long enough so that the people could, whoever could hide out and get where they can get and hide out. Whatever the case may be, they got the VP out safely or whatever the case may be, and they held them off long enough. And when they could not hold them off long enough, they just they let them run wild through all the floors and let them go through everywhere, and that's what basically would happen.
Do you think 100% of the people that were there on January 6th were right-wing MAGA? Do you think 100%?
I think probably for the most part 95.
Well, all it takes is 5% of people to fuck shit up.
Okay, but
even 1%.
But
So it doesn't really matter.
But I don't think 5%, because that person, I just wrote it down. He said how many people were brought up for charges? He said 1,100 people were brought up for charges. Is what came out. One of those people about who in the video that you just played. So, lower class, would you consider 1,100 people who they potentially saw fit to bring up for charges? Do you think that's you quantify that as a few people?
No. Remember earlier I said comparatively, right? Because we're talking almost 100,000 folks.
So okay. So 1,100 people. I wouldn't think we need to do this. So well, we got the footage.
I specifically said comparatively. I specifically said that word, and I used that word very carefully when I said it.
Comparative to the totality of the people are out
of the
there.
people that were out there, yes, correct.
That's about 1%.
So if we're excuse me, 1,100 represents what percentage of the group to you? Avery says
between 1% and 2%. Yeah.
So that means okay. All right. Cool. I'll do a quick search.
And there's still no evidence that they were there to kill politicians.
Okay, not so you to bring harm. Would that be more accurate accurate characterization?
Where is your evidence?
Okay, so let me ask you this then.
No. First,
where's
I asked
my evidence?
You a question.
Okay, where's my evidence?
Where's your evidence they were there to do harm to politicians?
Hang Mike Pence.
Okay, but like I said, that's one person with one sign.
No, that's example. That's an example.
Yes, but like I said earlier, that's one person with one sign.
No, that's not one person with one sign, and you're being disingenuous and dishonest again.
I think there's a lot of bad signs at a lot of protests all over America every day.
That's not being disingenuous.
You're lying.
So whoever is holding that sign represents.
You're lying. You're lying, lower class. You're lying.
No, I'm not.
Do you want to? You said one person. Do you want me to play?
I did not say only one person had that. I made this point earlier. I'm sorry you can't get it through your head. My point is the person who holds that sign is the person that represents that sentiment.
Who said
you
someone
can't
was
paint a broad brush over an entire group of almost 100,000 people based on one person that has one sign?
Who said someone was holding the sign?
You did.
I said they were chanting.
You heard that.
Okay, I'm gonna drop this clip. Let's Google this, and then let's this is easy.
You put a lot of work into proving that January 6th was the worst one.
This is easy. Chant hang Mike Pence. Let's Google that, and you do it up on YouTube. Hang Mike Pence chant January 6th. I'm sure I saw.
Oh my gosh.
You want me to drop the clip back there for you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. That's a short clip. I hear something, but I can't see anything. I still can't see anything.
Is that coming up now? Oh, wait, hold on. Historic day.
Okay, so right there, there's not a sign. You hear people at the door saying "Hang Mike Pence." So based on that bit of fact, I guess that would make your statements not actually correct or accurate. What happened?
Fair.
Furthermore,
No, 100%. Like I said,
furthermore,
like
let
I
me
said, right?
finish. Okay, cool. Furthermore, when you look at that big crowd that was out there, that's very intimidating, and you can see how the cops are overwhelmed and just had to let whatever happen. When you said 1,100 people coming at whatever the cops, you could see why they just kind of got people to safety, and they whatever. So
They orchestrated with people who wanted to kill our politicians.
Hmm?
So what you're telling me is they orchestrated with people who wanted to kill politicians.
Who you said they orchestrated with people?
They genuinely, like, so obviously what you're saying is the police genuinely knew that these people wanted to kill our politicians and still led them through the halls of Congress.
I would say I'll correct myself. I'm modifying point. They wanted to bring grave harm to the politicians. Nancy Pelosi, I think at that point in time, if they got Nancy Pelosi, I don't think she would have made out alive. But in terms of the politicians or whatever,
Where's your evidence for that? I will give you the olive branch.
where's the
Yes,
evidence?
there were people. There were people
Okay.
chanting "Hang Mike Pence." Okay.
Here's I'll give you a good example. What happened to her husband when they went to her husband attacked him there. Him. That's the example.
When that crazy dude beat him with a hammer.
Exactly.
That does not. That is such a ridiculous comparison.
Why is that? Why is that?
Obviously, mentally ill person beating somebody with a hammer.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with people going somewhere to protest.
No, you saying they're not there to protest. They're chanting "Hang Mike Pence."
Yeah, Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi's husband are not the same.
No, it shows you what happens when you put them in proximity of a said politician or person that represents someone of the opposite side. They get hammers. They want to hang. They want to put their hands. That's what happens.
Well,
did you see any weapons in their hands? We just watched two different videos.
Go ahead.
People had no weapons in their hands, bud.
You saying they didn't have weapons? At January 6th?
Did you see weapons?
Are you saying that they didn't have weapons?
I didn't see any weapons in those videos.
Well, you didn't see a lot of things evidently in terms of January 6th because we just showed you the chanting. So I'm just saying.
Oh, but words are not a weapon.
Are you saying that there were no weapons at January 6th?
I'm saying
are you saying that there? Are you okay? Because you didn't see any doesn't mean that there weren't not any there.
Yeah, I mean, there was no weapon charges. Obviously, no one used any weapons on cops. No one got aggravated battery with a deadly weapon.
Okay, well, MAGA, when MAGA was out at the whatchamacallit, when they were out at the podium when Trump was speaking, they had all the speakers. They had weapons out there. Whether these same people.
What weapons were they?
They had weapons out there. So I did my research. So
I'm sure somebody had a weapon, but who even cares?
So they had weapons out there. So to say that they shed their weapons to when they walked from where the rally was to Capitol, I think it's not conceivable, and I'm sure if I did some research, I'll definitely find that who
even cares? People, I carry a pocket knife every day. Who even?
Out of these 1,100 people, I'm sure that they will find someone. And I distinctly remember that people had like some type of ties and stuff that they were gonna tie people up with and things of that nature. So
Well,
they
all you have
Where,
is implied
where's your
damage.
evidence, dude? Where's your evidence for that, man? You're
okay.
making big claims here, dude.
Okay, so I'm going to give you this one piece of evidence, and you can research it, and everyone can research it. Research the testimony by what's her name? Oh, the girl who worked under, who testified, who did a book. The girl who worked under, what's her name? She testified January 6th.
Oh, you mean the one that never made any like total positive claims of what people said that day?
Testimony. I think yeah. She worked for Mark Meadows. Mark Meadows.
Yeah.
Assistant testify. Okay, Mark. And I will I'll get you his name. Cassidy Hutchins. Listen to her testimony.
Cassie Hutchinson. Yeah, I heard her whole testimony.
Okay.
She
Okay,
never
so
made any positive claims on anything anybody said. Whenever she was quoting something, she said it was to the effect of. And when you
So-
say that in court, it completely exonerates you from any liability if you're ever found to be lying.
So according to Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony, when she was out there at where the rally was taking place, or whatever the case may be, where they were giving their speeches before they went over to the Capitol, there was a conversation that she had, or I can't remember, during her testimony, she said Trump wanted more people under the tent or whatever, and the notion was that the Secret Services were not letting people in there because they had weapons. And Trump said, they're my people. They're not going to hurt me. Let them in. So she testified.
Hold on. You forgot a very important part of that. She said, he said something to the effect of.
No.
That is not making a direct quote. That is not a positive statement.
No. What do you mean to the effect of what? Clarify.
When you say he said something to the effect of, and then follow it with a quote, you are what's the word I'm looking for? You are essentially stripping yourself of any liability of a lie because you're not telling a direct quote.
Oh, but the facts of the matter still is there. What
That's
we're
a fact
talking
of the
about,
matter, brother.
What we're talking about is Trump wanting more people under the tent, and the reason why they weren't there was because Secret Service said a lot of people have weapons on them, that they wanted them under the tent, and Trump's response to that was, "They're my people, let them in." So that's the person who put weapons in the hands of MAGA, Secret Services.
Yeah, and just like Abe said, she also said Trump choked one of the drivers in the car through glass, and then the Secret Service themselves said none of that happened.
Okay,
so her credibility shot. Anything she says is worthless.
No. Her credibility is not shot because she got on the stand and testified under perjury. Nobody on your side or the Trump side did such a thing.
Huh?
Nobody.
The Secret Service even denied that happening.
Secret Services submit themselves and went up on Capitol Hill and issued testimony under perjury.
Did they get subpoenaed?
Did they do that?
Did they get subpoenaed?
Cassidy did it. Cassidy did it. She went up there and she said this happened. And
okay, I know you may not know this, but in order for you to testify in front of Congress, you have to be subpoenaed.
No, you don't.
You can't just go up and volunteer.
You can. You can, if you say you want to add to or contradict a statement that was put forth, you can. No one has to subpoena you.
So I would say I would say against that. Who knows if they did or not? Can you prove they didn't?
You don't have any evidence to prove otherwise. I say what I say because Cassidy said what she said under perjury. That's my
she
evidence.
Lied.
You don't have any way. You don't have anything to say that she's a liar.
She admitted it herself.
She admitted what way did she admit she lied? She hasn't changed her testimony. She is the only one on that side, to my knowledge, well, then probably others or whatever that came out in support and testified against Trump. But people that wanted to counter her line of the story, I don't recall them being up there to testify or provide opposing testimony.
All right. Hold on. We're going to go through this together, bud.
Oh, we'll go to what together?
Oh, you're gonna see.
What am I? What are you bringing up?
Business Insider. Is that credible enough for you? Cassidy Hutchinson says she initially lied to the January 6th committee about a claim that Trump grabbed the steering wheel of his SUV and lunged at a Secret Service agent.
Where did you want to drop the article?
Oh, my bad. Sorry. There you go. Credibility fucking shot.
Okay, so wait a minute. Give me the date for this.
The link? Yeah, I'll post it in chat.
No, yeah. Insider, December. Oh, this is asking me. Can you read? Because it's asking me to subscribe or whatever.
That's fine. Yeah, I've never been to this website before, but okay. Cassidy Hutchinson says she initially lied to the January 6th committee about a claim that Trump grabbed the steering wheel of his SUV and lunged at a Secret Service agent. Cassidy Hutchinson said she lied in her original deposition to the House Capitol Riot Committee. She said she initially told the panel she hadn't heard of Trump lunging at a Secret Service agent, but soon after her deposition, she said she later told her attorney, I lied.
Wait, right there. Cassidy hasn't Can you scroll down? Because here's what happened with Cassidy. Cassidy told a whole bunch of a different. She had an initial version of story when she was under Trump's lawyers or whatever the case would be. Then when she went to her own lawyer, she amended her story to correct some of the specifics. So let's go through and see what she actually said.
Oh, okay. So she lied. Like, I mean,
yeah.
Regardless, it doesn't matter. You said that she could go to jail for perjury.
No.
We can cut it right here.
Did you hear what I said? Lower class?
I mean, it's a justification for lying to Congress. That's what you're doing right now.
No. Did you?
Yes,
you hear?
I did hear what you said.
What did I say? What did I say? Lower class.
You said she lied under Trump's lawyers and didn't under the Democrat lawyers.
Okay.
That's what you're saying. That's your claim.
Yeah. So, yeah, she had one version of story when she was under Trump's lawyers.
Correct.
Right. So, and then she admitted
that second version goes in complete contrast with the second. That is called, my friend, a destruction of your credibility.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is 100%. What are you talking about?
No, it's not. Because if her final testimony is she changed her story because now she's want to tell the full truth and not tell the full truth about what happened because she was lying for Donald Trump, then that totally makes sense.
So your argument is that she was under duress.
I didn't say she was under duress.
So then she lied. I mean, it's just the bottom line. Like, she was under duress either when she gave the first statement or the second statement. And if she wasn't in either of those, she is a liar and she has no credibility. Bottom line, it's done.
So that does that same rule apply to Trump?
Yeah, Trump's a liar.
Okay, so what he says, you should never believe. Okay, cool,
brother. This whole panel was to talk about how Trump is not meeting up to the things that he ran on.
But you also defend some of the actions that were he's taken. You're also defending statements.
Well, you're overplaying January 6th when we had shit like Kenosha. We had stuff like Chaz. You're overplaying January 6th like it's the worst thing ever. It's not. It ain't got shit, dude. You know, Chaz went on from June the 1st to June the 8th to July the 1st. That's almost a month, dude. That a whole city was taken over, or a whole bunch of blocks, a whole bunch of businesses were destroyed.
So the fact that Ms. Hutchinson changes her story to tell the truth and not lie for Donald Trump, like many other people.
It's the truth now. How do we know? How do we know which one's the truth?
Because we can kind of verify a lot of what she says. This is no different. This is yeah. So yeah, this is no different that happened. Yeah.
What can we verify, brother? Can we verify that he lunged up and choked a fucking Secret Service agent in the car?
What Cassidy did is no different than what other people that were found themselves in trouble in Atlanta in terms of helping Trump steal the election. Those people, they told one story when they were with Trump And when they had to defend themselves legally, they told the truth of what actually happened. It doesn't necessarily mean that their second story is incorrect or whatever, that we
See,
shouldn't believe them.
I just want to point this out. What this is your bias is telling you to choose which one to believe. That's
No,
what it is.
no.
When really, I believe none of it because she's a liar.
She could have lied. That's not the mix.
Did you say she could have lied?
Yeah.
She man. I mean, like, again, going back to the January 6th footage, it's like we just went over this. She admitted that she lied.
No. Because we never got through what you were saying. When I admitted that there was an instance where she changed her story because she went with a different lawyer, then you wanted to back out. We never got through
do you
that
have
article.
like do you have any kind of evidence of that she lied because she was under Trump's lawyers, but then told the truth because she was under others? That's what I'm saying. So like, and that is the crux of a lack of credibility, because when you tell two separate stories,
okay,
it doesn't matter how much of either one you can verify. You've admitted you've lied. Bottom line.
Yeah. So people, the legal system they're dealt with this type of situation all the time when they're dealing with people who have changed their story. Then they corroborate these people with evidence, right? So with Catsy or whatever the case may be, she told her story. I'm sure there are people within the secret services that could kind of buttress her claim and things of that nature. So from that vantage point, if there's things that we want to say that she's lied about, then you'd want to bring those up. You would want to present them. But
someone who is a self-admitted liar, when they say that their original deposition was a lie, I don't need to go over the case of what is the same and what's different. They have destroyed their credibility with me at that point. Does that make sense?
I hear you, but that's not how the law works.
It doesn't matter how the law works.
Yeah,
You're asking me about my viewpoints on these.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that that's how the law works, because if that's the case, that'd be hard for us to.
I never said that's how the law works.
Okay, so I'm following the law.
Okay, perjury is against the law. So when she gave her deposition, she committed perjury because she later said she lied. So why didn't she get charged for it?
You said deposition. I don't know if it was a deposition.
That was what she admitted that she lied on, was her initial deposition to the January 6th committee. I can pull the thing back up again, man.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not trying to go in depth with this.
Go ahead.
This is like really splitting hairs and weird justification for believing someone that has no credibility. I mean, and is like,
no, you said she has no credibility.
Yeah, she has no credibility. She lied. She lied. Full stop.
So
don't need to go any further than that.
You can't even. What did she? You have to prove what she actually lied about.
Why do I have to prove it when she fucking admitted it?
Yeah, because we would want to isolate that as a lie. That particular statement. Not everything that she says.
But that one lie. See, you want to isolate that and look at the rest of the shit, but it doesn't matter because that lie is the thing that destroys the credibility.
Okay,
I know your bias favors Cassidy Hutchinson.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. Cassie lied. Trump lied. A lot of people in his organization lied. So how do we, as a people in the legal system, get to the truth if we can't trust none of the liars?
You can't trust any of them.
Yeah, I don't trust any of those people. Shit, dude.
No. Okay, so how do you get to guilt? How do you try a case, man?
You can't trust any of them. They're all bad.
When you try a case, you have someone who has credibility say something.
Okay, so you would in your world, like, because this was intended to go to the federal court in terms of January 6th and things of that nature, they're going to have certain people testify. So you're saying that in essence, all the people that lied, misrepresented, should not testify, right?
Like, hold on. Now you're using a very broad concept, but I feel like you're trying to make a very specific point. So I'd like you to elaborate on that a little more.
Yeah. Because Trump is definitely, if he's put on trial and put on court or whatever the case may be, he's going to probably, if at worst case scenario, testify in his own defense or whatever the case may be, or have people testify in his defense. People like Mark Meadow or Rudy or whatever the case may be. These are proven liars, or whatever the case may be. The person. A lot of his lawyers have lied. So I'm trying to figure out if I can prove that any one of these people that he would present as if they're liars, then who is going to put on a defense for Trump? Who's going to stand in defense of him if we can prove that they're liars?
You got me all wrong, buddy. I don't stand in total defense of anyone who was defending Trump that day. I don't really give a fuck about that.
No, you said we can't trust liars as their
testimony.
testimony.
We can't trust liars. Correct. I don't understand. Right. And you're gonna try and go through this January 6th case with me. I don't give a fuck about January 6th anymore. It's over. It happened over 5 years ago, dude. Or 4 years ago, excuse me. Sorry.
Okay.
This whole debate that we've had today is more of like our disappointment.
This
with
entire
Trump.
panel was to criticize Trump about what he's doing right now in this administration. I don't give a fuck about January 6th. I've already told you my views on it. I don't think and obviously the courts don't either, because he was never convicted of doing anything, right? But I do think it was incredibly irresponsible of him to rile up a bunch of people with this concept that he lost because of voter fraud. I think we can agree on probably a lot more in the grand scheme of this thing than we do in focusing down on January 6th itself and what happened in that building that day, right? That's where I'm coming from. I don't really give a shit about this anymore. So if you want to continue talking about how Trump's doing in this administration, that's great. But I'll be honest, I'm kind of done with this January 6th conversation.
Well, I respect that. I'm done. I was done with it. Whatever. It really got down that path because I guess you were defending Trump. I guess.
Well, you asked why we liked him, and I gave you my position why I liked him. I think Buddy did, right? So, I mean, we gave you why we liked him, but we don't like a lot of things too, right? So, I mean,
okay, so the disease that hit our country, or whatever the case may be, at the top of end of 2019, beginning of 2020, was it? Am I correct?
Yeah.
Right. So records show that Mr. Trump downplayed the severity of that virus. Are we in agreement there? Or are you contesting that?
Sure.
I'm not so. The past to me doesn't really matter. I don't really care. Yeah. I'm looking at what he's doing right now that I have a problem with. I don't really care what he already did that I have a problem with.
Okay, so in terms of what Trump's doing now, I would say the massive corruption, in terms of profiting off of the White House. I would say that the tax against
that's a big claim, buddy. You're gonna have to back that shit up.
What's a big claim?
That's a big claim that he's profiting off of the White House. If you're gonna bring up that meme coin, I'll bite. But it wasn't the White House that gave him that money. So I'd like to hear how him making profits to taxpayers' dollars coming from the White House.
No, profiting off of the I guess just to clarify my statement, profiting off of the office of presidency.
How so?
The meme coin, because he's president and he's in a power position to make decisions and impact things globally or whatever the case may be. He could say, if you want something, you can pay me.
What do you think about Nancy Pelosi's husband being on a 20-year running streak of good bets on the stock market? What do you think about that?
Yeah, we can go into that. I mean, like everybody that works in the government, it works with stocks or some degree. That's not necessarily corruption, right? Like I'll say the meme coin thing, fucking bad idea. Stupid. He shouldn't have done it. That was dumb, and he did make money off of it. I'll buy it. Okay, I'll buy it. So that's not corruption.
Okay, so he's making money. Do you know that he is not making certain actions or whatever? Because we don't know who's giving him money, right?
Do I know that he hasn't deposited $5 million in my bank right now? I mean, that's like the way that you phrased that that's a very disingenuous phrasing there, because I'm not saying that he hasn't done it. You made an affirmative claim. I'm asking you for proof. So yeah, I can't say he hasn't done it, but I'm not the one who's made any affirmative claims. You see what I mean?
Okay. So you would need to see money exchanging of hands, and then from said people, then you would need to see the specific policy in question that queries to him.
Well, I mean, like even a quid pro quo in general.
Okay.
Right.
Do you is it an accurate statement that Trump is considered a transactional president?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I would say that there's been a few different scenarios where he took loans from people that he's now fighting for with our military.
Yeah, I mean, like
that I have a problem with.
Is that an accurate characterization of Donald Trump? And do you need clarification when I say transactional?
Yeah. What do you mean by that? Yeah.
As transactions means you give me something, you do a favor for me, I do a favor for you.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so that goes back to so if Trump is getting like $1 billion worth of money for certain people, there's strong possibility that he's acquiescing. They're buying favors for him because you give me money, I'm going to do something for you.
Yeah, that definitely plays a part in that. 100%.
Okay. I mean, that's just business, though, right?
Okay, so would the Elon Musk thing would that be considered like? Would that be like obvious, a transactional relationship
that benefited Trump himself?
Transactional relationship. He gave money for his campaigns, and in return, Mr. Musk got all say type of grants and whatever. He got control.
Yeah, that's why he got all ticked off, because he thought he was supposed to get some money for his businesses. That's why he got all pissed.
Correct. Yeah. And then Trump said it'd be not. I mean, he also spoke to when Musk was going at him. He said all these licenses or something. He said Biden. I'm surprised Biden didn't get rid of them. Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
so wouldn't that be considered like a transactional situation?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, to some degree, 100%.
All right. So I think I kind of proved a little bit the corruption that I see.
Whoa! Wait a minute, bro. You just made a huge jump. Hold on. What?
We already agree on this, Calvin.
Huh?
We already agree on this, Calvin. We already have a problem with this.
Biden's the one that approved all those contracts to SpaceX. Those were in place before Trump even got into office.
So, are we saying that was the only thing that Trump, that Elon Musk got beneficial from his role?
If anything, Elon Musk got fucked.
Yeah, his businesses
the
are all
big beautiful
jacked
bill's
up.
going to cut the EV mandate.
So I heard that a lot of investigations that were open against him got dropped.
See, now, like you'll have to show some kind of proof for that, man.
Okay.
What's up, Duck? Welcome back, man.
Okay. Well, I know of one instance where I can find it where Trump was about to give him or purchase. Biden had put before he left out, he was going to buy like 35,000 or 45,000 worth of Tesla cars, right? After Trump got in office, Trump tried to increase it to 400 million before someone called him out on that. Would that to you be somewhat of corruption to you?
That's not really corruption. That's more of like you scratch my back, I scratch yours. That happens every day. That's low level compared to some of the stuff that's going on.
Corruption doesn't deal with a benefit to the government. It deals with the benefit of a government employee. And so, like, if we're talking about benefits here, Elon Musk, by joining the government, lost like what, almost half of his value within a couple months.
It was about a quarter. About 25.
A quarter? Okay, fine. Yeah. Whatever the number is. But he lost a large swath of his value. On top of that, this new bill they're passing is going to completely fuck him, because the EV mandate was his like golden ticket to being the main vehicle manufacturer in the country. And now that's not happening. So that's why, like, just looking at this from an outside perspective here, I don't see how that tracks to corruption at all.
The example that I just gave about purchasing Teslas
with government contracts.
Government money, government. I don't know if it's contracts or whatever. But yeah, probably it was a contract or whatever the case would be.
Okay, I don't like. Yeah, but how
You
does
don't
that
see that as
equal
corruption? Because he paid money to help Trump get elected, right?
Well, he didn't pay money. He raised money.
Gave money. I guess he gave.
It's different. No, yeah, he didn't pay money. He raised money.
So you're saying, okay? So you're saying
it was? I forget what pack it was. I actually did a video on this. If you want to go back and look at it, they might have taken it down because I had fucking
copyright,
some old song,
strike.
copyrighted music on there.
So,
but I did a whole video on it, and I broke it down for both candidates, by the way. Like everybody who was their largest donors.
Okay.
So and in that pack that Elon Musk, I think it was called the America Pack Texas is what it was. One of the people that was running that with him is Big Pharma. So like that's the guy who was like designating all the money for that pack. So yeah, this fucking sketchy shit there, albeit, right? But that's not Trump.
Wait a minute. So okay. So in terms of that example I give you, you're saying that it's sketchy, and because when I said he gave money, now you went to dispute that he gave money. So are you now switching back to saying that you agree that was sketchy, or
you mean the pack? I mean, having someone from Big Pharma run the pack, absolutely. Anything to deal with Big Pharma is immediately sketchy to me.
So we got down this path because I said Elon Musk gave money to Donald Trump's campaign. You disputed that by saying that you brought up other people, right? Am I correct?
No, he raised it. He raised the money, though. That's like he didn't give his own personal wealth to Donald Trump. He started a PAC in Texas and raised money for Donald Trump.
So he started a PAC. So
yeah.
Okay. So I think there's quoted what 283 million or something like that that was given. Is that sound about right? Do you recall?
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah, it was a good bit.
Okay, so of Elon Musk's personal wealth, you're saying that, or maybe you're not saying. Are you saying that did he give any? Do you know that he gave any towards how much of that 283 million was his? Do you know?
I mean, you'd have to look financial records for that, man.
You said what?
You'd have to look into the financial records of the PAC.
Okay. So
and I don't know if they necessarily like I know the FEC requires them to give reports. You'd have to go through. I think they're required to do like a report every 30 days. So you can probably go in and look at that.
Okay.
But I mean, like I wouldn't. I honestly, when you have like someone with the marketing capabilities that's in Big Pharma, and Elon Musk himself, he probably wouldn't need to give any of his own personal wealth for real. I mean, I'm just being like honest with you. You know, these guys know what they're doing along those lines.
And you said the PAC is who's the head of the PAC? Is it Elon Musk?
So Elon Musk is the guy who started it. Here, hold on, let me pull it up. Elon Musk is the guy who started it. I can't remember the dude's name that was running it. Here, hold on. I'm pretty sure it was just America PAC Texas. Yeah. So America PAC Texas. I'll go ahead and share my screen real quick. 1 second. Can we agree this is a trustworthy source, Open Secrets?
I'm not familiar with them, but you can proceed.
It's like they're not partisan bias at all. You'll find bad shit on both sides. All right, so they raised 263 million PAC contribution. Chris Young was the guy's name. That's the guy from Big Pharma. He was the treasurer, so he was like in charge of all the money. I don't know where to find like financial records. Here's the documents filed at the FEC. So we can pull that up, and I'll share the screen.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So when in the recent or the past election, of course, there was a runoff in Florida between two congressmen, and then also there was the Supreme Court judge in Wisconsin, in which Elon Musk involved himself. And you remember he kind of went down there, wore the cheese or whatever the case may be, and they said that he donated money or whatever the case may be towards helping that person run. You recall that story?
Say that one more time. I apologize.
Oh, there was in our last election, I think interim election, there were three places that had two congressmen in Florida had a runoff because for whatever reason. Also, they had that judge election in Wisconsin, and at that point in time, Elon went down to Wisconsin. He was promoting and whatever for the Republican or conservative Supreme Court judge at that point in time, and they were saying that Elon Musk is doing his money or whatever. Wait a minute. That just reminds me. Didn't Elon had like the $1 million or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, the giveaway.
Yeah.
It was like to two people every week or whatever.
Okay, yeah. So the vote. Okay. So from that vantage point, so they were saying that Elon was, helping to fund this campaign for him. So when they say Elon helped the fund, we shouldn't look at it as Elon or whatever. We should look at the super PAC as what you're saying. They're the ones that given the money. That's how I
Yes.
see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without a doubt. Because I mean, even if he did like put some of his own money in there, I would say like this is a PAC that raised $263 million. I highly doubt that was all like dumped in by Elon. This was all like political campaigning, donation drives, probably big fucking fancy dinners with lobster and filet mignon. You know what I mean? Like a lot of this came from rich ass people. I mean, we're talking about one of the richest guys in the world,
All right. So, is it not true, or is it accurate or fair to say that Elon Musk takes credit for this donation, despite it being from a group of people, whatever the
I
case
mean,
may
with
be?
him owning the PAC, yeah. I mean, if you want to go that route, I can agree. Where he
Okay.
can take credit for money coming from the PAC to Donald Trump's campaign, for sure.
Because I think that's what was one of the statement he said in his fight with Donald Trump. If it wasn't for me or whatever the case may be, you wouldn't have even won or whatever the case may be. So
Yeah. He said a lot of shit.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he said
I
that
guess
because his his endorsement carried a lot of weight because Elon was most of the time he was either on the left or a centrist. He was never a right guy.
Okay.
So his
So,
his word carried weight.
yeah, so I guess when I bring up the corruption thing towards Donald Trump, I look at like I to me it's like I consider it somewhat corrupt if the person who helped you get put in the office or whatever, they raise a certain amount of money, and then when you get in office, and because they have a contract with the American people, and you raise it like you went from 83K or whatever the case to 400 million, whatever, before the said person who stands to benefit from it. To me, that's you would just consider that's like sketchy in your book of Biden did something like that, or
Oh yeah,
Calvin, no,
when
100%.
Biden
I
had the
agree with
stuff
you.
going on with Ukraine, bro, we felt the same way, man.
Yeah, dude, Calvin, I 100% agree with you. Now, what I would do is I would implore you to look up what campaigning for an election looks like, because that's what it is. That's not that's not me deflecting. That's not whataboutism. That is me just describing that is how people get elected in this country. That's a problem. Would you not agree?
Okay. You made a very valid point. You won me over bringing this up. You're saying is basically the norm of how it goes in collection. You had all these donors. They raise money and expect to get a return on their value in somewhere or whatever. They're lobbying for their position when said person gets in the White House. That's normal politician.
Yeah, that's the status quo, man. Yeah.
Okay, then you just killed my my whole line of defense right there. So I would definitely say this would probably fall in line with that as normal standard I would say standard.
Oh, it is kind of corrupt.
Yeah, standard.
No, 100%, 100%.
Accept
Yeah.
it. We accept this type of behavior, and from politicians.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, we don't really have an option, man. Like,
Agreed.
and if that's something we can come into agreement on, great. I would
Agreed.
say before we even go down the rabbit hole, 'cause I don't really want to make any like specific claims or something. I would recommend highly you look into those things, because that happens. That's like everybody and how they campaign. Every politician, that's what they do.
I'm aware. I'm aware that excuse me. I'm aware that it happens. I guess I took this one example and I called it blatant corruption from that vantage point. And if that's the case, then I'm not being fair to what actually happens on, because it's the same thing that happens on the Democratic within all.
Yeah, dude, Calvin. I'll tell you something right now that was like, whoa, with Kamala. One of her biggest donors is Larry Fink. That's the owner of BlackRock. And if you know what BlackRock's got their sticky fingers in all over the world, you would probably feel the same way I do. And matter of fact, further than that, I would implore you to look into every single senator on the right and left, and congressman. Look into all of them and look and see who their donors are. You would really vet who you like and who you don't. You know?
Without a doubt. Like Future Forward USA, they're the ones that donated. I think like it was like $600 million or something in total to Kamala's campaign. Don't quote me on that number directly, but it was up there. It's above 500 million. The two people who run that are on the board of Jane Street. So like they're Wall Street execs. You know what I mean?
Heavily involved in the pharmaceutical
this shit
industry.
is so engrossed into our political system. It's disgusting. And yeah, 100%, I agree. Like I don't like the way that Trump funded his campaign this time around. I mean, we can agree on that 100%. I think it's trash. But that's like that is they've been doing that for a long time, man. You know what I mean? Like if we can come to agreement on that, I highly recommend going in and looking all this up, because it's pretty fucking egregious when you really see like who's funding all these campaigns.
So I'm not disillusioned that there's corruption that's being had within these politicians, backdoor deals, things that we don't see, people who give lots of money and they expect a return. I definitely see that when it comes to medicine and farm or whatever. They just getting paid by the Democrats. It's like y'all pay
both sides, unfortunately.
Both sides. Yeah, they're getting paid off. So I do recognize that. I would only say, and this is why we were going to differentiate. I think some of Trump's actions go above and beyond, only because he's a business person. So in that return, he can directly profit immediately from his position.
They all are. Have you looked into how profitable Nancy Pelosi's husband has been, and since she's been since she was the head of the House? Actually, before that.
Okay, so and you know what? You bring up a valid point. I like I said, when it comes to these politicians or whatever, I know that she's often been accused of stock market, a lot of them, or whatever the case may be. I guess for me, prior to Trump, I really didn't see that in a president.
It wasn't known. It was all subliminal. No one brought it up.
So, okay, let me ask you this then. Can you point out some corrupt behavior that Obama did in terms of profiting?
Yeah, but before that,
before that one here,
Calvin, I want to point something out to you. Nancy Pelosi's husband and Nancy and Chuck Schumer were so profitable in the stock market that there are some people out in Silicon Valley that built apps where you could stock trade the exact trades that Nancy and Chuck Schumer made, month by month, week by week. That's how profitable they were.
So yeah, Avery, I agree with you. I'm not gonna, I guess, discredit. I know, unfortunately, as much as I like, Nancy says supports a lot of my issue. I have to be honest with myself to say that there is a level of corruption that goes on that even AOC and Bernie kind of call her out about taking money out of politics and campaign finance
Oh
reform,
yeah.
things of that nature. So I guess my when you go to Nancy, I'm looking at the big dog. I'm looking at the top head. So that's why I was like,
Yeah,
that's
she's the richest out of any politician. Her and Chuck Schumer have made more money than any other politician in U.S. history. Biden was trying to catch up, but he couldn't quite do it. He lost his brain too fast.
I lost his brain too fast. I mean, it was a bad decline. It was a bad
Yeah.
Well, so and I do want to point this out, like with this chart right here. This is from Newsweek. Like they're reputable to a lot of people on the left. So this is a chart of presidents and their net worth before and after taking office. Biden, he only profited about $1 million after his presidency. Not that crazy, right? Barack Obama, however, increased his net worth by 53 times while he was in office. It's interesting to me.
While he was in office?
Yes. This is when they got in,
When-
and the purple bar is when they left. So
Okay,
they don't show Trump's because Trump's first term, he lost net worth while being president.
but he lost net worth as
Yes.
Yeah,
Assets
he
and
lost
cash
like
on
he
hand.
lost like I think it's something like he lost something nearly $1 billion or something like that. He went down a bit, but he financed his own campaign and everything, and he didn't take
Yeah.
any money while he was in office. I think he should have because he's not doing it now.
well. I would take issue with the claim that he did not. From far as I know, he did not receive a check, but I know that he did get his money back in other areas, which is why
No, he did after his presidency. No, you're right. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, he got a
actually
loan from shit. I don't know if I should say on stream, buddy. Should I or no?
Just
Uh,
use like a descriptor.
Vague language. He got his loan from a country overseas that we are currently funding issue with Iran with. That's what I'll say. He got
he definitely did. Didn't
yeah, he got 100 million or he got 100 billion, I think. Is what he got.
So well, there was in Trump's first term. There was I think afterwards. I can't remember when it came out, but if you Google White House for sale under Donald Trump, it'll bring up a report that shows how Trump was his companies were taking in money from foreign entities while he was in office. So to that point, yeah, he wasn't getting a check because he was saying that I'm doing this for free or whatever the case may be. But in the back on the books in his companies, we weren't seeing that stuff. So however, one of the people that does his book, whatever, they turned over a report that kind of showed or indicated that he was getting money from certain entities. So I would say that to that point, Trump, in some regards, I guess we have to. That's why I say he's a different. I can't. He's a different kind
Well,
of
if you
animal
want to
because
argue
it's a
he's
business.
corrupt, if you want to argue he's corrupt before he even got into politics. He didn't. He wasn't corrupt the whole time he was serving the country. If you want to argue that, but he's better for the economy. So
Okay?
what do you know?
I hear what you're saying, but do you see what I'm saying in terms of why I kind of look at him differently? Or
No, dude,
he is
I
different.
get it. Here's my thing, right? So, and this is something that I just noticed. This is from my own perspective. I was raised under the assumption that the people that work in our government, and it wasn't necessarily the assumption, like this is what I was told, right? The people that work in our government are of the highest moral standing and ethical practice of anybody in the country. And that is not true, and it never was true. So the big issue with me and a lot of the drive behind Trump is he's the first person to run for office that came in and said, they're all lying. They're all fucking you over. They're wasting your money. They know it. I've been doing it too, but at least I'm willing to admit it. That's where a lot of his support came from. And the issue with the politicians now is they've been on their heels this entire time because he's essentially he's like a heretic, right? Like he does everything in opposition to what the status quo of politicians in this country do. And I get it. Like a lot of people have a lot of really strong opinions about the guy, but there's no denying that he's an anomaly of a candidate.
So, yeah, I guess by virtue of his pedigree, he is an anomaly of a candidate from that vantage point, and then also his political ideals. I mean, Donald Trump is just different all the way around. He broke the system. So from that vantage point, I agree. I see what you're saying. I guess, and I want you to, I guess elaborate because you brought this graph out because we want to know, corruption committed, to by Obama, and to your point, I definitely agree with what you're saying. We did have a level of, I guess we had a level, we expected a lot from our president, and that's been long standing in terms of being ethical and things of that nature. Sure, we know they were corrupt, they did minor stuff, whatever. Maybe they were shaving the books in certain regards. They had their cousin, their uncle, whatever, doing stock market trades and getting on whatever they per se weren't putting their hands in. Sort of like what they said about Biden and his brothers and his uncles are doing certain stuff, acting on his behalf, and they're collecting the money. I kind of understood things like that would go on, but I think when we look at what Trump brought to the table in terms of being a business level, it just brought a different. When you're a business owner and you have companies across the world, they're just different things that places you can get into in terms of collecting money and things of that nature and profiting. But to this graph or whatever.
Hey Scott, I agree with you. Yeah, look, Bill Clinton made more than he outdid everybody.
So I know the Clintons are when she had that nonprofit, right, when she was Secretary of the State, and they were just raking in money or whatever. Nonprofits is the way
what
to
they
go.
did to Haiti is like that's egregious. Anyway, but go ahead, Calvin. You were trying to make a point there.
Oh yeah, no, I want you to get back. But I was saying nonprofit. If anybody could making it a nonprofit or whatever, and get people to donate to you, because you in a
look what Cree said. He said, tell us more about the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah, we yeah. But hold on, Calvin. You were getting somewhere. I'd like to hear where you were trying to go.
I think I wanted you to kind of explain to me, because I want to know about specifically profiting off of the office while you in office. Now, I expect you to make a lot of money after you being president, because you're president. There's certain things that whatever the case may be. However, just making a lot of money while being the president is just something that I would say we're not normally accustomed to.
Well,
Obama,
most of the time it's never been pointed out, man.
See that.
Hold on, Avery. If you don't mind, just let him finish.
No, he can. Yeah, no. I was actually turning the mic over. Does this graph kind of show that, or
So I wasn't pointing to a direct example of corruption, but what I was just trying to allude to is like Obama. I think he had like a $2 million net worth when he took office in 2008, and then when he left in 2016 or 2017, excuse me, he had a net worth of like over 70 million.
Okay,
and it's just a very like vast increase in the amount of money. I'm not going to say I'm not going to make any specific claims because I haven't necessarily looked in it. But I mean, any everyday person, if you were to show them this or give them that information, Like when you see the levels of money that all of them are making, like not even just the Democrats. Look, dude, George Bush almost doubled his net worth while he was in office. You know, like these are George H.W. Bush. Look, like almost 5 times. It looks like
Okay,
somewhere
so
around there.
Laura, this says chart network of U.S. presidents before and after the presidency, but
Yes.
you're saying he made 70 million during his presidency. You see what I'm saying? The chart shows what I guess it's telling me that this is the money he made after his presidency, which makes sense to me. But if he made 70 million during his while he was sitting as a president, then that would be, I guess,
So I guess if they had specific
concerning.
dates on here, it'd be a little better. So we can specify this here. Hold on.
Because my concern, or whatever the case may be, is that presidents that I've known have never used the office to make millions and billions while they sit in the office. They make their money after they leave the office. They don't use, whatever the position to enrich themselves. And in my research of Donald Trump, he does just that while he's in office. It's based on the businesses that he has and things of that nature. It allows him to do that because he has what. So let me be. I guess I was going to go to the the Middle East area in Qatar and things of that nature. The money that is happening out there.
Okay.
Let me ask you: were you guys aware that after Eric Kushner and Ivanka, after he left office, that
yeah, Saudi Arabia made a massive investment into Jared Kushner's company.
Okay.
Yep, I know about it.
Okay, cool. So
it's wrong.
And then, huh?
It's wrong.
Oh, okay, cool.
100%.
Okay, but that's after after he left office, right? So
yeah,
not during whatever. So it kind of begs to ask what kind of why are they being rewarded in such regards what they do. And even as Trump was coming into like running for presidency, they were always like building hotels or whatever for them over there in the Middle East or whatever the case may be. And then the only connection that I can see is that we're now signing a military package, a self-defense package, a weaponry package for this area that doing all this stuff for Donald Trump. So you see where I'm going at with this.
So wait, we're giving them fucking military aid too? Are you serious?
Military. We're selling them weapons.
Oh, we're selling it to them.
Yeah, we're selling them. Not.
I mean, I haven't heard of it. So like if you tell me that, I'll take you on your word and I'll look it up and
selling.
See it, you know what I mean?
Weapons to Middle East. U.S. approves massive arms sales to Saudi Arabia. Okay. Let me see the date on this one right here. This is that's 2022. This is he wasn't even in office at this point in time. I think there's something that came that let me see. He wasn't in office at that point in time.
Yeah. Are you talking more like 2017, 2018? So it's saying here in 2017, the Trump administration announced a significant arms deal with Saudi Arabia, initially valued at $110 billion and potentially expanding to $350 billion over 10 years. However, reports indicated the actual purchases by 2018 were significantly less, around $14.5 billion. And I can agree with you. This shit is fucking bullshit. Most of the time when it comes from things like this, the military industrial complex, they get a lot of this contract money and it goes right into their pockets.
Mm-hmm. Now, that if you ever do a study or something on that would be I've been trying to understand that aspect, the military industrial complex, especially seeing as how we just increased their budget by what? How much did we increase their the new budget for self-defense? It went up by 150 billion, right?
Yeah.
150 billion. Yeah, because Doge saved us 150 billion. Then they tried to increase. So yeah, I admit, shoot, if you were in that business, you're making a lot of money.
Oh yeah, 100%, dude. Fuck the military-industrial complex. I'm with you on that. Absolutely. I understand that, like, in order for us to maintain our military might in the world, we need some form of like an initiative or an incentive structure for people to make newer and like upgraded weapons and everything. But just the way that the government interacts with them, I mean, it's like the way the government interacts with the pharmaceutical industry. It's egregious, bro. And they've been doing this for fucking years. I mean, like in 1961, when Eisenhower got out of office, that's when he coined the term military-industrial complex. Yeah, it's a bipartisan problem. Absolutely, does not give a fuck, for sure. Yeah, it's totally a bipartisan problem. And USAID, that's another good. That's definitely another good example.
So do you agree with the taking down of that department? Do you think it could have been kind of fixed or revamped or remixed or something like that?
Not without an entire flushing. You know what I mean? Especially with like with all the things that they found that they've done. Like, for instance, I can share my screen on this right here. Yeah. Okay, give me just a sec. Hold on. This is from just a few days ago. Funny how it didn't get more play. It's weird. And like this is one example, right? So that this doesn't fully encompass all of it, but this is like straight from the DOJ. This guy, Roderick Watson, I think his name is. Here, hold on. Let me make sure I'm correct on that. Give me just a sec. Yeah, Roderick Watson. So he was taking massive bribes from these big companies so he could push them along through their essentially their aid packet applications. And then the way that they were working all this was this company Vistant was subcontracting Aprio, and then once they reached their and like they did a lot more than just this, but this was a way that they extended this corruption to continue going on. Aprio was the one who took the primary contract from USAID and then listed Vistant as their subcontractor just to keep the ball rolling. And like that's one example, right? But like this is the kind of shit that gets people pissed off. You know,
So
it's like
exactly. So you imagine we got a budget of what? What's our budget every 2 trillion or whatever the case may be?
Yeah.
And this is just one example. $1 million would change. $2 million would change your life, our life. And to see, oh, we lost Avery. Okay, Laura got a phone call, y'all.
Sorry about that, Calvin. I apologize, man.
Oh,
My
no
bad.
problem. No problem. We lost Avery.
Hopefully,
Hopefully,
he'll jump back in.
Yeah, so this is just like a fraction of what's going on. So,
Correct.
me,
Yeah.
both of us, I guess I'm angry because I would like the corruption to stop. I would like to have a president that sees corruption in that same light, in that vein. That is really going to put a muzzle on things and be a guard dog. I don't see on either side. I see one candidate, but you probably wouldn't like her or whatever the case may be. But I know she's at least a stickler in terms of holding people accountable and not letting us get taken advantage of. But she probably turn a blind eye to a lot of the project that goes on in the Democratic side. But I wish we had a president like that. I don't think our current president is of that nature, of that concern characteristic.
I mean, just look at the big beautiful bill, right? Like the big beautiful bill has a ton of concessions in it that go to Congress people. So like, I'm not saying he's directly corrupt or anything, but what I'm saying is there's an element of Trump that is totally cool with letting people waste shit. Like
So-
this bill that got written.
Okay,
It's
so
a perfect case in point.
okay, so let me ask you that. So your position is the bill is bad. You're not in favor of it.
No, I mean, like, I think
there should have been a bigger fight and more of an advocation of not wasting our taxpayers' dollars in that. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Let me
For sure.
let me ask you this, or maybe I don't know if it's let me ask you this. Let me give Trump, because we're talking about Trump, right?
Yeah.
A quick report card in certain areas. So I can kind of figure out where you land at. So like from like like regular report card F to A or whatever. What would you give Trump on the economy?
On the economy right now,
Mhm.
I don't think it's fair to grade it yet.
Not yet.
I don't.
Okay.
No. Seriously though, seriously. And I've had this debate with other people too. I don't really say anything about how he's doing on the economy, and I personally agree with the approach of tariffs in general. I'm
Mhm.
not exactly like too much of a fan of how he's utilized them,
Mhm.
but I think if we were to see how well this is going to work out, to give it a fair shake, we probably need to give it at least another year. That's when we're going to be able to see like actual tangible results of the market rebalancing itself.
Okay. I'm gonna come back to that one.
Yeah.
All right. Foreign policy. Ukraine, things like Ukraine and now Israel and
He's at a solid C.
C. And what is your issue there with them?
I don't like the way that he's worked with Israel. I don't like the way that he hasn't been able to make almost any fucking headway on Ukraine right now.
Mhm.
I don't like that we were bombing Houthis, and I'm just an anti-war guy,
Mhm.
But the benefits that he has done is he's gotten a lot of foreign investment into the United States.
Okay, you're
So
anti-war. So you're
yes,
like no war at no cost.
it's not no war, no cost. I don't like us funding foreign wars and I mean, when it comes to Ukraine, it's less about like, to me, the thing that makes me mad isn't the money that we pledged to them after the war started. It's how much money did the CIA spend there in the 8 years that they were there before the war started. And that's not a conspiracy theory. That's all proven now. They had an entire like surveillance network set up over in Ukraine. MI6 was involved. The Dutch Netherlands was involved. So we had yes, 100% Creed. So we had 3 NATO allies conducting surveillance and literal spy operations out of Ukraine in the 8 years before the war started. And my question is, how much money did we spend over there in taxpayers' dollars for that? Because that came out of the Pentagon's budget.
ABC's got to go. Okay, so you were saying, so when you said surveillance, you're talking about who's being surveilled, who's doing the surveillance, and who's being surveilled.
So the CIA predominantly did it in the first few years. Charlie, relax, buddy. The CIA did it predominantly in the first few years. In the last 2 years of that, MI6 and the Dutch were involved in it. They were conducting those surveillance operations on Belarus, Russia, and China. Primarily Russia, but they also were doing it on quote unquote other countries. But those haven't really been specified. The only that are known is that the CIA was operating within Ukraine. They were training Ukrainian soldiers how to do spy operations, how to take on they were teaching them how to take on false personas, how to live in those personas, how to do spy operations, all of it. That's not even like tinfoil hat stuff. Like that is for sure proven now. And yeah, that happened very shortly after the Maidan Revolution. That's the first bit of reporting.
Look at you. You knew a lot about foreign policy, and you said
Yes.
you're relative. You consider yourself a novice to politics. Yeah. So okay. So when those were conducted, those were done to our benefit. These people were being trained to. They were trained to, in essence, be an asset to us, a spying eye for us.
Yeah, without a doubt. And then they went rogue.
Okay. Okay.
That was one of the biggest things. So like that's like the common misconception with the whole war in Ukraine is that it just started when Putin invaded. No, they were battling for like essentially once the Maidan Square Revolution happened and the government got toppled, there was like small skirmishes between Ukraine and Russia. Russia was like dropping soldiers behind their lines and invading things. There were people getting killed. There were like high level assassinations going on between both those countries. Like it like that shit was going on for quite a while before.
So
quite a while before
okay.
then.
I'm go to the next one, but Scott says something in the chat. I haven't been reading it, but I happened to catch this one. He said, "I'm okay with Trump with what Trump has done so far because it stopped the endless money going everywhere without knowing what it's spent on." Okay, so we definitely need to have accountability to where money is going. This Trump administration and Biden has been I guess a lot of education for me. When I would see like 65 billion coming from our defensive budget or whatever, and they say it's like only 2% of the budget, I'm like, okay, what's that or whatever the case may be. But when you kind of look under the hood and kind of start peeking at things, 65 billion or is a lot. And I do see the concern what people are like, how are we giving another country all this money and look at our position. My only pushback to that is I am in favor of funding Ukraine. I kind of look at it like monopoly. I kind of look at like the global world as a world of spaces and pieces on the board. And if we could flip another place on the board in favor of the United States, make it a United States ally or whatever the case may be, I guess I kind of see that as a positive. There's more people coming into on team being team United States or team NATO. So that's how my vantage point, how I look at it, in terms of. Go ahead.
I totally understand that point of view. My thing, so here's where I come from with it. I understand supporting Ukraine through this. I personally, I think that the only reason Putin went in was specifically because he knew there were spy operations going on from NATO countries. That's genuinely why I believe. I know there's a narrative that he wanted to rebuild the USSR. There's not much evidence to that. If anything, like the lines where the USSR used to stand and where they are now have receded since the USSR fell, and they've done nothing but recede. He's taken no ground, right? And that's not me being a Russian bot or anything like that. I'm just trying to look at things practically. For me, I would say our better option would be to engage in more trade with Russia, not let them into our country, not let nationals in just freely to come in and about like we do with China right now. But it would be to increase our trade simply because of how resource heavy Russia is. They would be a safer bet as an ally rather than an enemy.
So, okay, I agree. In terms of weaponry and the threat that they pose, I agree that they and resources they would be more beneficial as an ally or whatever the case may be. I guess I would say, can they be? Is he a trustworthy person? I guess the way that he and I'm not sure. I see him as kind of backstabbing us under the Obama administration. I think he did. Didn't he do another invasion during that time? And
I'm
they
sorry,
blame.
invasion? I might have
Yeah,
misheard you.
I think because that was one of the criticism Donald Trump had Obama that he let Crimea be invaded under his administration. He didn't stand back. He didn't do anything when Russia did that, and he said that would never happen under my administration, maybe because Russia respects me, whatever the case may be. So,
yeah,
I guess if that being the case, I guess I I would have to do a deep dive and kind of look at the long history of the Russian and United States relationship because it seems like a lot has happened, and you kind of need to know these specific points and details to kind of understand the relationship as it is today and why it's so strained and who actually started. Because some people say us moving further east is the reason why Putin is acting so erratically. And if that being the case, then that's our fault. But if we have a defense to, well, we never did that, or that was never a promise, or something else, I guess I don't have that insight at this point in time. Is something one of the things I have to research and understand with this topic. I wanted to. I don't know if you have something to say, but I was something I wanted to sideline for just a quick second. But if you had something to say to that, my last statements, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Really, well, the only thing I'd say about Crimea, so looking at how the public sentiment it was in Ukraine, even up until Putin invaded, Eastern Ukraine is very pro-Russian, and Western Ukraine is more like independent. They'd like to stay away from Russia, and that's typically how those two, like, that's the political climate there. So when he took Crimea, which is, it's the eastern side of Ukraine, when he took Crimea, the reason he took it so easily was specifically because most of the people over there already agreed with Russians. Now, I understand why Trump would be so against just letting Russia run over there. But, at the time when Trump said that this is a guy who's never dealt with international geopolitical structure or anything. So he was probably definitely in the wrong for that. Mostly, I mean, like the whole benefit of Crimea is specifically for its strategic place on the Black Sea. Like that's why people would want that. There's major ports. It's sorry, I saw CIA, FBI, and military black ops. That would probably take years to uncover. Yeah, without a doubt, dude. 100%. Yeah. But it's Crimea is a very strategic place, so I'd understand why he wouldn't want to let somebody take it over. But at the same time, like, if you have a country that's already supported by the people that are in that area, they get annexed, which is what happened, by the country that they support. You wouldn't be doing the people that live there much of a favor. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that's right or wrong, but it's just looking at it from the perspective of, like, what was actually going on politically in Ukraine at that time.
So you speak very knowledgeably in this area. I'm curious, where does it come from? Are you like, were you in the army or something like that, or how did you? What informs you?
No, I've just read into this a lot
Ah.
because it's like a recent event, and people have been, like, I'm not an anti-tax guy, right? But I support my tax dollars going to places where I know they're going and what they're getting, like, spent on. And when it comes to a conflict such as, like, this Ukraine war, it's a very, like, complex subject. Like, nowhere near as complex as something like Palestine and Israel, which I don't even, like, give an opinion on that because I don't understand that level of complexity. But reading back just on the history of these things and, like, where Ukraine came from, I mean, they've had tensions with Russia since back in, like, it was like the 20s and 30s when the Holodomor happened. So they've already had a bad taste in their mouth. That's where, like, the independence sentiment came from. Was, Russia was essentially, like, forcing farmers to grow food and then taking every bit of it, and people starved to the tunes of millions in Ukraine. So understanding where that political sentiment would come from the people in the West, and then the people in the East seeing that there was, like, a regime change and there being a lot of really well done propaganda in that area by the Russian government, and those two things conflicting. There were internal battles inside Ukraine itself for a long time. I mean, that's where the Maidan Revolution came from. So it was a really interesting topic to me. And like, even like the Baltics, right? Like Yugoslavia, really, really done a lot of looking into how that whole powder keg blew up after what was the guy's name he was like the great unifier of Yugoslavia. He died, and it, like, almost immediately fell apart.
Okay. Um, something I wanted to ask you, and it
While
kind
we're
of
down Civic. Anyway,
ties into something you said a second ago. You were talking about the intel, and I want to get your personal assessment. Um, recent events, recent I guess strikes or whatever, um, like what happened with the Houthis, right?
mm-hmm.
um the intel, them to be able to, of course we learned to signal gate what happened, like it's like the intel that Israel was able to give us in terms of where to strike that leader as he was going up to meet his girlfriend. Like that's powerful, like you have someone on ground or whatever, a point of contact with inside that country that can feed you that type of detail or whatever. I thought that was like powerful, in terms
Yeah.
of.
That's the kind of military relationship we have with the Mossad over in Israel. I almost like can possibly guarantee that's the main reason why we're so in tight with them because
Mhm.
like the Mossad, they are a very formidable spy force, man.
Wait a minute, Mossad. Is that Israel people? Is that a group
Israel, that's their
that?
special forces, yeah.
Okay, so special forces. Okay, so okay, cool. So yeah, so the human sources that they collecting this information from, or whatever the case may be, are these like people within that own country? They're betraying them, or is it like spies that have been over there that are perpetrating or masquerading?
Hold on, say that one more time. I apologize. I kind of lost track of the question.
Oh, no problem. Human sources, like the human sources that would have fed Israel, that this person has a girlfriend and he goes to see her at this apartment at this time, or whatever the case may be. That type of information, I guess, would have come from a human source, right?
Yeah, I mean to some degree, yeah.
Okay. Oh, or it could have been like, I guess, satellites. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's probably
Yeah.
mostly what it is. Like small
Okay.
drones that don't really make as much
Okay.
noise and stuff. That's not that stuff isn't too far off to think is real these days, man. I mean,
Okay.
you know,
Okay, this is taking me further down this rabbit hole of questions to ask you. You well, the Ukraine's most recent strikes within Russia, which specifically happened to do with all the planes that they destroyed via with the flying with the drones or whatever the case may be.
yeah.
Right? Have you read up on that at all? Much at all?
That recent update, no, I haven't actually. I looked
Okay.
more into the history of how the combat has evolved, or how the relationship between those two countries evolved, just to kind of get like a context to the actual conflict itself. But I haven't been like necessarily keeping up with updates on how the war is going because
Okay.
I don't like the war, right?
Okay.
I don't like the war itself.
I don't
I
like it
would like
either.
to understand it, but the
Mm.
war itself isn't.
Oh, so the reason why I bring that up is because in this recent attack, the reason why this one was so interesting is that the drones that were released, they were released behind the enemy lines. It means that they had somehow penetrated and got within the Russian country, whatever, and they were released from within or behind enemy lines. So that's why they were so successful. And I'm like, how were they able to do something like that with Russia? And so like, I thought that was an interesting piece of an intelligent and point way of attacking an enemy. And even I think I was watching portions of Peach Hegseth recent visit to his the Senate, his testimony at he went to the Senate hearing or whatever the case would be,
Yeah.
and based on that one action, whatever Ukraine was able to do, and I think we didn't even know they had the capability. He wanted to know how are we being prepared or for such a attack, drone attack, attack that would come internally from within our walls or whatever the case may be. So within the interior. So yeah.
See, that's when it comes to like what they're actively doing right now. That's I mean any kind of claim I would make, or any kind of
Uh-huh.
uh, s- what's the word I'm looking. It would all be conjecture, right?
Okay.
It would
Uh-huh.
just be like what I
Mhm.
think.
Mhm.
because we have no idea until later when they tell us.
We just hope
that's how the game works with that.
We just hope that they're doing their due diligence and staying about ahead of the curve and in these things before they happen or whatever. I think drones are drones. If I were president, they it's like a game changer. I don't know how. If me, I would have to find some way to put a trace on each one because if someone wanted to attack us internally within drone, we're doomed. I mean, they could go after bridges, they can go after whatever. And there's no I don't know if we have the proper support at this point in time to prevent such a thing.
Yeah, I sure hope not. You know what I mean?
Yes, Abe asks, I'm actually curious what Calvin does, and then Scott asks, what's your work history and background? To those questions, I'm like lower class. If on a regular day, if you leave me, what type of panels I would take part in is music, talking about 1990 music and things of that nature. That's my area of expertise. I work a regular normal job or whatever the case may be. However, I do like politics a lot. And only I wouldn't say recently, I think Glenn Beck. I used to watch, back in the Glenn Beck days when Obama was in office. I guess that's when I kind of started getting my my bug or whatever and interest in politics. You remember Glenn Beck?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he had that board and he would just go through with all the notes and like he was like the first conspiracy theorist because he had me thinking Van Jones. I remember he had like Van Jones is inside. Like he was like one of the first or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. A lot of those things, a lot of because obviously I don't believe in all conspiracy theories, and I think to a large degree you can draw strings between certain things and make like loose correlations and stuff. But there's obviously like a lot of these things that get labeled as conspiracy theories are actually true. Hey Calvin, I'm gonna go play pool. I do want to say, man, it was fantastic conversation with you. I know we got a little heated over the January 6th thing, but honestly, I really had a good time talking with you today. So if you have a channel or anything, please go ahead and plug it, man.
There's nothing going on just at this moment. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, even that's the case, man. I want you to know you are always welcome back here. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Chat, thank you guys very much. I hope to see you all again soon. I'll be streaming tomorrow. Calvin, man, you have a great night, brother. Thanks, guys. You rock. Peace.